Yo, could you join?
Yo.
Yo, we are live.
Are we doing it up?
Yeah, we're live. We're watching we're gonna watch Destiny debate Andrew Wilson, then I'm gonna do
No.
Dexter after that.
No, I put in a movie request.
Oh yeah, what movie?
Urban Legend.
Oh, okay. We can definitely do that after the Destiny thing. I'm down.
How long is the Destiny?
I have no clue. But I didn't want to do like movies and shit without Rick, and I don't know how long he's gonna be. And
What time is it? 11? I'll be home in about a half an hour.
wow, well then you know what?
And he's only going to be working on the campaign stuff.
Wow. So he's not even gonna hang out with us, huh? Wow.
I mean, he may come in to hang out, but he's not invested.
Like a
Wow.
bunch of people gathering together, smoke.
That's messed up.
All right, I'm going on push to talk, so like yell at me when you're ready for Urban.
And the
Oh
civil
hell yeah.
Love you,
because if they were,
bros.
we would have saw way more shit.
I didn't know there were car.
Think that some of this
Oh,
between the two of you, so 5 rounds.
there
in
we
total.
go.
And then, and that's pretty much it. So 5 minute opening, 3 3-minute rounds where you're not interrupted. Same thing with the opening, and then two.
No, I have
5-minute rounds
graphics
with open dialogue between the two.
enabled.
Is that fair?
that sounds good to me.
Sure, yeah, I guess, yeah.
And then what I also was thinking is, we'll quickly in the beginning identify the definition of insurrection. I have here a violent uprising against an authority or government. Is that
Oh, okay, it's not
the
me.
definition?
Everyone else is saying it too. His
I
bit
imagine
rate's
the
just
The
dying.
definition is probably going to be a good chunk of the conversation, I would imagine.
That's why, because I pulled it right from Google. I typed in insurrection, and this is specifically what Google gave me. So that way,
I'm not sure that either of us are going to be able to agree on the outset to a definition. Does that seem right to you, Destiny?
We will, I think.
Okay.
Or I think we have to, but we'll see.
No, I mean we have, yeah. Well, I mean maybe, but I'm just saying on the outset here, if you
Oh,
want
on the outset at the beginning, no, we won't. We won't. Not
yeah,
before the That's going to be.
I don't think we'll be able to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
so you guys don't want to use a violent uprising against an authority or government.
I don't think that we would be able to agree on that right at the outset. So I think that some of this in the beginning will be us coming to some agreement with that. Does that sound correct to you, Destiny?
Probably, yeah. That'll be part of
Yeah.
the debate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's right.
That's fine. I guess you guys can make that in your opening statements then.
Okay.
But for the audience that's watching, this is what Google says, but obviously you guys can go ahead and interpret it during the opening statement. And then, Bills, how are we looking as far as like going live on our side so that we can broadcast this? Because I know they're live on their sides.
Give me 1 minute.
All right, give us 1 minute, guys, and we'll get this thing going. Bills is just setting up the OBS and everything else like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
No problem.
yeah, I could do an intro and all that. Yeah, I could do that. What was that? No? Yeah, I sent you. Oh, Destiny, do you? Yeah, three things in the Telegram chat. Destiny, do you have any documents or videos that you want me to have on hand so that I can play them for you? I know Andrew had a few, so I want to make sure I extend that courtesy to you as well.
Not that I can think of right now. No.
Okay. If something comes up, please let me know, and we'll pull it up on our side for you.
Does he have your Telegram?
Destiny has my direct number if he needs me. But yeah, if you think of something, Destiny, it's a return to speak or whatever within that 3 minutes, let me know, and I'll have my guys in the back research it and pull it up for you.
Okay.
Same with you, Andrew, if you guys want that.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it.
It's your 3 minutes, so you can spend it however you like, and we'll do our best to quickly pull up something if you guys need it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Cool.
Do you think the majority of the people?
Oh, yeah, that was yeah.
Gotcha.
So sorry about that, guys. But other than that, Destiny, good to see you, bro. I'm glad that you're still here with us, man.
I'm still barely alive, but I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh man, dude. Going crazy on Twitter, man. It's crazy.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh man.
Are you sick? Are you okay?
Yeah, I've had to. I went to the RNC and I just came down with a bug every.
Okay, so for those that don't know, this is Destiny debating Andrew Wilson on J6. And this was like pre-set up
Sound like
for Myron to be the mod here. So that's
Yeah,
what's
it's
going
much
down.
Better than before. It was worse than this. I went ahead and commingled with all the people you hate. They made me sick. Destiny.
Nice. Well, that's what happens because they were all unvaxxed, you know?
Oh my.
So it looks like too that him and Myron have a little buddy
Oh,
sesh
man.
after. So it's
Well, if
pretty
he's at the
interesting.
RNC, then they probably were all vaxxed,
Oh,
actually.
they're doing a what?
Yeah, depending on how far you go.
Like they're talking about the Trump assassination.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right, so guys, I'll
Yeah. So
we'll
that'll
start
be
at the
good.
stream and I'll say, "What's up, guys?" I'll do a quick little. You know what, man? Honestly, bro, we don't even got to play the intro music or anything like that. I'll just we'll just go live, and then I'll you know what I'm saying, do a quick little intro, and then I'll kind of make some quick announcements. Then, oh, my camera, yeah. Just keep it on camera too for me, and then we'll be good. All right, that's good. Shout out to Destiny and Andrew Wilson's audience. You guys are seeing like the behind the scenes of how we get ready before a show.
Well, I appreciate you moderating at such short notice. It's very kind of you to do.
Bro, of course, man. You guys are both the homie of both you guys, so it's totally cool. Don't mind it at all.
I see some familiar names in this chat too.
Yeah?
They know who they is.
Yeah. So
All right, I'm gonna start up the live.
you're gonna start the live now? All right, cool. So I won't even do my intro, guys. Like normally with the music and all that shit, I'm just gonna say, "What's up, guys? Welcome to Fresh Fit Podcast. I'm here with Destiny and Andrew Wilson. Boom. We'll do some quick announcements, and then I'll just turn. Oh, who wants to go first, Andrew or Destiny?
I'll open first if Destiny has no problem with that.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair because I was the challenger.
Destiny's okay with that.
Damn, I might actually redo
what
this
I'll do is
game.
I'll also give you
What?
guys like a 30-second warning, so you guys kind of know, hey, try to wrap it up if you can.
Okay.
And I'll time each round. So the first one, the 5 minutes, the opening statement will be 5 minutes. Just waiting on the confirmations. Okay.
You got my friend Big Mo in studio or what?
Yeah, he's here.
Tell him I said what's up.
Because they knew what we were doing, so they're like, nah, we don't want to fuck this one up, so we're both gonna come down.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Refreshing, making sure I get confirmation.
We started the stream. We're just waiting for it to like pop up on all the different platforms.
Sure.
I think we're live up on YouTube now.
I see YouTube.
YouTube's up. Okay. And then once we're a go on all of them, I'll make the intro. Welcome, guys. Roll in when you guys can.
Waiting on locals and Rumble.
Okay.
Oh, I think I see locals.
Probably skip this part.
Send that. That means
Nah, it's absolutely necessary, actually.
Fucking riveting.
We're here today to debate if the events
Oh, hell yeah.
of the January
Right there.
6th Capitol riots were an insurrection or if they weren't. Simple.
Fuck you.
It's a simple
Oh,
debate
Moses.
prompt. They either were or they weren't.
Okay.
Looking
What
at the
happened?
idea of insurrection
None.
itself, it isn't exactly clear what the meaning of it is. It does always seem to be tied together with violence or some will to overthrow a government, law, government system, government itself, or resistance to that law, or something akin to this. The Supreme Court hasn't given us any guidance on this as they wash their hands of it, and to date, not a single person has been charged or convicted of insurrection who participated in any of the J6 rioting. This includes Donald Trump himself, who was acquitted of inciting insurrection. You would think, with no clear guidance of what an insurrection is, a lack of anybody being prosecuted for this supposed insurrection who participated, and a president acquitted of inciting one, that would be that. The events of January 6th were a protest that turned into a riot. This is nothing new. Democrats do it all the time. In fact, Destiny in 2021 completely agreed with my current assessment. Please, if you don't mind, play clip 1.
Okay. We will make that available to you.
Ooh.
Bills is going to roll it up right now. And I will go ahead and give you an extra 5 seconds just on your thing, just because. Okay, go ahead. Play the video, please. Bills.
Do you think the majority of the people there were actually trying to do that, and all they managed to do was like kill like one woman got shot by the cops? You're fucking delusional. I think most of the people probably showed up to protest because they were fucking mad, and then shit got riled up. There were probably, almost for sure, I would say, some genuine bad actors there that had fantasies of invading the fucking Capitol and shit. Now, I think I heard from the FBI that it was like 5% or less had some plan to do something. Even that number sounds a little bit high, because 5% of however many thousand people, there's a lot of people. But I don't think every single person who went there, their goal was to destroy the White House or destroy the Capitol building and take it over. But because if they were, we would have saw way more shit.
Okay.
Now, just so you know, I have no visual on my end when those play, and I'd appreciate it if you guys could put the visual up on my end as well.
Okay.
In fact, Destiny even agrees such rioting and political violence is part of the democratic process, akin to voting, he says. He said this to justify the George Floyd or BLM riots, that such riots were just one side of the Democrat coin and baked in to our democrat process. The tail's in and just the other half of democracy, he says. Of course, he later denied this. Please play clip 2.
Okay. And we'll get this so that you can see it. Just 1 second. I'm gonna stop the clock while we're right now we're 2 minutes and 14 seconds in. Oh, hold on, Bills. I'm gonna start the clock once back up once to be fair here. Once the clip is up, can you see it, Andrew?
I cannot see the clip now on my end.
He's gonna make it visible to you here in a second.
Great.
And I stopped the clock just so everybody knows. Bear with us, guys. We're using a million different things, OBS, Zoom, all this other stuff. Shout out to Bills in the back, working hard. Can you see it now?
I can see something. There we go. Perfect.
Okay. So we will roll the clip now. I'm going to start the clock back up. Bills, go ahead.
Disingenuous sack of shit. Because, as I've debated you in the past, you started talking before January 6th ever occurred about how the BLM riots were justified. It was just the other side of the coin of voting. Of course, once you realized that grip wouldn't do as well for you when you were debating the Rittenhouse shit, you completely 180'd your position.
Did I ever, hold on, did I ever say rioting is the other side of the coin of voting?
Probably did.
That's a really strange statement I did. If I did, that's a really strange statement, but go ahead, okay.
Right, find the clip.
Activism and riots are one side of the coin and the other side is voting. I think there's conspiratorial at all. I think that affecting political change like this is fine. Like, that's part of the goal. Like activism and riots are one side of the coin and the other side is voting.
Wait, what?
Whoa.
Why is he?
So,
this is 20 seconds in. Go ahead.
So why the radical change of heart on this topic from Destiny? This complete 180? Well, that's simple. He hates Donald Trump. A simple motivation, but at least understandable. He also hates Trump supporters. In order for him to justify that he wants them all to be unalived, he needs to brand them all as traitors and insurrectionists. In this way, he can build a case that Trump supporters are evil, and so it is justified to use violence against them. To recap that, Trump supporters are evil, therefore anything which happens to them is fine. Going so far as to say his friend Pisco, the only reason he wouldn't have liked Trump to have been unalived by this would-be assassin is because it would motivate Republicans. This, of course, gives us an entailment that if it wouldn't motivate Trump supporters, he would be fine with Trump having met his demise in this assassination attempt. And this is the last clip. Play clip 3, please, and then I'll wrap this up.
Okay, we're 4 minutes and 20 seconds in, and we're going to stop the watch while we pull this up. Approximately 4:24 seconds, but I'm adding another 5 from the first clip and how we were pulling it up.
So far beyond that. So far.
Okay. I'll start the clock back up once we roll the clip. Can you see it, guys? Can you see it, Andrew? Oh, sorry, he's screen sharing it right now. Give us 1 second. We'll pull it up. Thank you, audience, and thank you guys for bearing with us here. Many things going on. We want to make sure that Andrew can see it as well as the audience.
Yep, I can see it.
You can see it? Okay. Bills, go ahead. I'll start the timer back up.
So far beyond that. So far giving a fuck beyond any of these fucking losers. But go ahead, yeah, man.
Can I ask you a question? So, and you don't have to answer.
Oh, is this our boy Benny?
Do you wish the attempt had
No.
been successful?
Oh, okay. It just sounded like Benny.
Do I wish that the
Oh no, it's
attempt had been
Pisco. Okay,
successful?
never mind.
Fuck, am I even allowed to say anything about that?
You don't have to answer that.
Here's what I'll say. This is what I will say. I don't know, 'cause I'm trying to Fed post or whatever. Here's what I will say. A failed attempt is probably the worst outcome of anything that could have happened. I'll say that much.
I disagree. I think a successful attempt, if that had happened,
Well, actually, hold on. We might agree. The successful attempt, or
Stop real quick,
it
Bills.
would be an attempt at that point. The successful.
Pause real quick. So, guys, we just hit pretty much the 5-minute mark. Destiny, if you're okay with it, I can let this kind of go on another minute or so, and I'll afford you an extra minute and give you 6. Are
Yeah, you
okay?
can. Yeah, you can learn about this thing.
Okay. All right. So we'll complete this out. I'll time it. And whatever I gave Andrew, I will give to you as well on your opening statements if you're okay with that. Go ahead, Bills. Roll the clip back. Thank you, Destiny.
Whatever, might be the worst thing that happened. But if it was the worst thing, it would just because of like the country's reaction afterwards, basically, which is possible. Yeah.
I mean,
So, ultimately, Destiny needs to be able to provide us with what an insurrection actually is, an actual working legal definition, or even a personal one, so we can work off of that to understand the mindset of a person who claims this was an insurrection, even as nobody ultimately is prosecuted for an insurrection. He, to date, hasn't done this for the same reason the Supreme Court and higher courts won't. If they do define it strictly and categorize it strictly, then it's likely Democrats and even Republicans are engaging in them all the time. Non-stop, in fact. I am, in fact, willing to, in the ultimate spirit of good faith, concede that if Destiny just can't really define an insurrection or tell us what goes into that category, and not into the category of a riot, that he really has no business calling anybody an insurrectionist, especially when nobody's been charged with an insurrection in regards to J6. Nobody, and certainly not convicted. I will concede, however, if he concedes Democrats are likely involved in insurrections all the time, using violence for political change, I'll concede Republicans may be as well if his definition is that broad. However, that will eliminate his moral high ground for the justification of do what you want to them because they're traitors. That would also make you a traitor. With that, I'll cede my time. Note in that video that the entire audience, when he was asked this question by Pisco, said yes, we would have preferred that Trump was unalive during that assassination attempt. Go ahead.
Okay. So that I have approximately 6 minutes and 45 seconds there. Destiny, I will reset the clock and allot you the same exact amount of time to stay fair here. Let me know when you are ready, and I'll restart the clock.
Yeah, I'm ready whenever.
Ready? Okay, I'm going to start it now. I'll give you 6:45, and go ahead, brother.
All right, I believe that the subject matter of the debate is whether or not
Ooh,
January
okay.
6th is an insurrection or should it be considered an insurrection. Originally, I thought there was going to be a 1v1 debate against me and Andrew, but I can do a 1v2 debate against my 2021 less educated self as well. I have no problem speaking to arguments I've made in prior clips. I have no problem speaking to current arguments made by Andrew. So we can head down that road. I think that the first thing that we need to acknowledge when we talk about the structure of the United States government is that the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is what powers our three branches of government, and it sits above every other part of our government, and every part of our government must comport to the Constitution. I think this is a foundational American belief and principle, and if you don't share on this foundational belief, then we're never going to connect in any sort of meaningful way when we talk about how U.S. law or U.S. process or procedure, whatever, should be carried out. So that being said, there was an amendment to the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, and Section 3 of that amendment basically goes on to say that any prior oath taker that has engaged in or aided in an insurrection is no longer allowed to hold office, essentially. Now, the question that we come to today is trying to define what is an insurrection. And while in modern times it seems like an insurrection is a term left to a dictionary or a term left to internet debaters, at the time that the amendment, the 14th Amendment, was framed, what was an insurrection was pretty well understood. An insurrection includes 4 vital elements. One is an assemblage, meaning a group of people that have come together. 2 is resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. 3 is you have to do this by way of force or intimidation. And 4 is it has to be for a public concern or a public cause, not a private thing that one might be interested in. Just for some understandings of when we say an assemblage, we can look to in 1861, Justice Benjamin Curtis said a combination or conspiracy by which different individuals are united in one common purpose. So not just a bunch of people in a city protesting different things, but a group of people that are united in one common purpose. We can look to Justice Samuel Chase in the case of Freeze in the year 1800. He says, if a body of people conspire and meditate an insurrection to resist or oppose the execution of any statute of the United States, a statute such as the ECA, the Electoral Count Act, which is what they were united on January 6th to insurrect against. They were opposing the execution of that. They are only guilty of a high misdemeanor, but if they proceed to carry such intention into execution by force, which we did see on the day of January 6th, regardless of if every member engaged in force or just one, they are guilty of the treason of levying war, and the quantum of force employed neither lessens nor increases the crime, whether by 100 or 1,000 persons is wholly immaterial. Doesn't matter if you have an insurrection of 50 people, 100 people, or 1,000 people. You only really need 2 people there to make it an insurrection. In terms of whether or not they were resisting a law or interfering with the cause of government, we can quote here, an insurrection against the United States requires resistance to any statute or some public law of the United States. This is a quote by Judge in, I think, 1826. Curtis spoke this to a jury. He says, the law does not distinguish between a purpose to prevent the execution of one or several or all laws. An insurrection could be directed at a legislature as well as at executive officials. William Rawle declared that an effort to coerce repeal of a general law to be an overt act of levying war. And Justice Field's opinion in the Great House Court case held that any effort to coerce the conduct of government constituted an insurrection, such as when people went to the White House, or I'm sorry, went to the Capitol to coerce Pence to overthrow the election, which is what Donald Trump told them to do. By force or by intimidation, quoting Justice Marshall in 1807, the most comprehensive definition of levying war against the king or against the United States, which I have seen, requires an assemblage of men ready to act and with an intent to do some treasonable act and armed in warlike manner, or else assembled in such numbers as to supersede the necessity of arms. You don't necessarily need weapons to do it. You could just have the numbers of people there threatening to use force or intimidation.
Good point. Good
and then
point.
for a public purpose, obviously, the insurrection is to, I'm quoting Judge John Kane here, insurrections to redress by force national grievances or to reform real or imaginary evils of a public nature. Obviously, they were protesting the vote. That's what they were there to do. This is obviously a public issue. So to recount, for the assembly, there were hundreds of people that breached the Capitol building. There were thousands that trespassed on federal land. For 2, there was a clear resistance to the federal law. The trespassers were there to contravene the Electoral Count Act. There was a plethora of evidence brought up in the Anderson versus Griswold case about this, where, quoting the justices, quoting the judges on that case, they said substantial evidence in the record showed that the mob's unified purpose was to hinder or prevent Congress from counting the electoral votes as required by the 12th Amendment and from certifying the 2020 presidential election. Third element, the resistance made extensive.
Dang, dude. How does Andrew counter this?
Just by watching any of the videos. To
Oh, the most hilarious way.
The mob repeatedly and violently assaulted police officers who were trying to defend the Capitol.
There's like
Obviously,
no
the calls
hope.
to hang Mike Pence.
There's no hope
marched
for him.
very famously with 1776 signs, which, as many in this audience might be familiar with, was a very popular insurrection in U.S. history, or a rebellion even, one might say. And then for a public purpose, it was obviously for the public purpose of resisting what they perceived to be as the stealing of the election. There are ways to try to counter this argument. We can either use nonsense definitions of insurrection, but that doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters was the public understanding and the legal understanding of insurrection at the time the 14th Amendment was created and when Section 3 was framed, because that's what the Constitution demands, that we look at what was thought of as an insurrection when the language was added to the Constitution. We can try to divert by talking about BLM or anything else, and I'm happy to dive into all of those examples if we are going to concede on the original argument that January 6th satisfies all 4 elements of what I consider an insurrection to be. If we want to concede that and move on to analyzing any particular BLM action or whatever, that's totally fine. We can talk about the likeliness to work, of which an insurrection has never been defined as. An insurrection doesn't necessarily have to lead to the overthrow of a government. That would be understood as a rebellion. Every insurrection is not a rebellion, though every rebellion starts as an insurrection. And then when we say, this is a common one as well, why was no one charged with an insurrection? People can be charged or couldn't be charged with crimes for a variety of reasons, but for purposes of the 14th Amendment, nothing in there requires the criminal conviction of the crime of insurrection, only that an insurrection occurred and that one engaged in it or aided it.
All right, and that is 6:40. Okay, so just 5 seconds shy. That completes the opening statements. Really good arguments from both sides here. We'll go into round 1. I'll turn it back. So we just completed opening statements, guys. Each party had 6 minutes and 45 seconds to make their original stance and their first opening statements. We'll go to round 1. I'll set the clock for 3 minutes. Andrew, let me know when you are ready. And
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, timer is going now. Go ahead. 3
Yeah,
minutes.
so let's start with this idea of my definition. What the hell do I care about your definition? Nobody has been prosecuted.
Why do I care about your?
for
Oh no,
any
he's gonna go.
insurrection
I'm too
by any
stupid.
definition.
He's gonna
Destiny
do the
comes
I'm
through
too
and he gives us
stupid.
this list. He says 1, an assemblage. Okay. 2, resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Okay. 3, by force or intimidation. Okay. 4, for a public purpose. He has just outlined basically almost every single political riot I've ever heard of. That is what that is outlined. So let's see, an assemblage. This would cover a riot. A bunch of
Oh
people
my.
assembling. Resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. That could be shutting down roadways for commerce. That could mean anything. By force or intimidating, if you have Black Lives Matter, other groups like this who are out there saying
Yep,
no
the
justice,
BLM,
no peace,
what
that
about
would
them?
be
Yep,
very
gotta get them, right.
intimidating. And then
Poggers,
for public
poggers.
purpose,
Good
very
play, good
nebulous.
play. Can't
All of
forget to
this
blame
is
them.
completely nebulous language. He has not actually given us a definition at all. By the way, if you could cam me while I'm talking, I'd appreciate it. He has not given us a definition at all. He's just kind of given us this loose, nebulous, framework for what is or isn't an insurrection. So let's kind of dive into a couple more things here.
Wait a minute,
Because
wait a minute,
people
wait a
can't-
minute. I hate that. I hate that so much. Destiny clearly outlines what he thinks an insurrection is, and he's like, he hasn't given us a definition, just like a really clear outline. Like, oh, what an idiot, man.
Exactly.
Be charged for a variety of reasons. That's not saying anything. So what?
Holy moly.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they committed insurrection and they weren't charged for insurrection, but also maybe they did not commit insurrection and that's why they weren't charged with insurrection. That's a non-argument. He says that these elements, third element, self-evident, Colorado Supreme Court using 1776 signs. People use 1776 signs all the time and have
Do they?
absolutely no interest in any type of rebellion.
Do they? Wait,
whatsoever.
yeah, I was gonna
It's
say,
very
wait,
common
no,
for
they
people to have
don't.
those as bumper stickers. That doesn't mean that they're going to be engaged
Definitely have
in
never
any
seen a
type of rebellion or
1776
insurrection
bumper sticker in
at
my
all.
fucking
He
life.
also,
Hey,
as
yo.
he talks about these various rulings, he says treason of levying war comes in. Obviously, insurrection seems to have something to do with levying war against the United States, or at least some type of start to levy war against the United States. He still has not actually demonstrated any of this. He's just given us this really nebulous idea. An assemblage resisting any law or interfering with a course of government proceeding by force or intimidating for public. This is very nebulous. So unless Destiny is going to concede that anything which meets this criteria is an insurrection, then I'm not even sure how to go forward with this debate. How in the world
Oh my.
can he say essentially almost
Unwinnable.
any riot on planet Earth or any assemblage, even a peaceful protest where they shut down the roads, is an insurrection? That can't be true. That just can't be true.
Okay. We had ended there at about 2:57. Andrew, you're up on our channel. They can see you. I don't know if it's on.
Yeah,
your-
we're good on mine too.
Oh, you are okay. Perfect. I just want to make sure that we're there. So, but you are definitely up on, and whoever's speaking, I always make them the main person. So, Destiny, I'm gonna put this is round one. I'm gonna put 3 minutes. on the clock
Round
for you.
one.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, brother.
So I think my definition is pretty clear. There is an assemblage. There's a clear resistance to the implementation or the execution of some federal law. The resistance has an aim to make use of force or intimidation, and it's gathered for a particular public purpose. BLM almost automatically fails on the fact that these were not usually demonstrations against federal law. I don't know the federal law or the federal thing that was being resisted by BLM, but again, I'm happy to dive into any particular BLM supposed insurrection or riot if you'd like. But again, I mean, that has nothing to do with January 6th, and if you want, then you see that entire argument, and we can move on to analyzing individual BLM instances. But again, you'd have to show that there was some implementation or carrying out of some federal function for it to be an insurrection against the United States government. States might have their own definitions of state insurrections. I'm unaware of any. So to say again, my definition
Going
of
in.
insurrection, like very clearly, has 4 elements. If you want to suggest an alternate definition that you feel more accurately comports with what you would consider an insurrection to be, that's fine. But we can't just say that it's nebulous and there is no definition when we have we've got references made in our Constitution and in our federal criminal code to insurrection. That doesn't make any sense. We can complain about people being charged with an insurrection or not, but whether or not somebody is charged with an insurrection, again, has nothing to do with the event itself. For instance, if I were to look and see at any number of BLM riots, if I were to look at a riot, would a challenge to that riot be, well, was anybody charged with rioting? If I could show you a riot where people clearly engaged in a riot, where there was a mass of people that were engaged in violent behavior that involved the destruction of some property or violent activity, but I were to say, well, look, nobody was actually charged with rioting, would you say then that, well, I guess nobody was actually, or there wasn't a riot that actually happened? Nobody would make that claim. There's a whole list of reasons
Oh,
why
no.
a prosecutor may or may not charge for particular crimes. In this particular case, there were really good reasons not to head down that insurrection charge road, because it would probably put the Supreme Court in a very hairy area, which they might end up getting into anyway, in terms of actually having a strict definition of what insurrection is. But again, the 14th Amendment doesn't require a strict definition of insurrection in order to disbar somebody from running from office. All it needs is for a court to engage in asking the question of whether or not somebody had engaged in an insurrection, and if they had and were a prior oath taker, then they were barred from taking any public office in the future. So yeah, again, if there's an alternate definition that wants to be explored for an insurrection, then I welcome that. But that definition, it needs to comport with the historical and legal understanding of what an insurrection was. Otherwise, it's just meaningless, meandering, opining that means nothing, when we should be thinking, like, what was the definition of insurrection at the time the 14th Amendment was drafted.
Okay, that's 2 minutes and 40 seconds. You don't want to use the rest of the 20 seconds, Destiny? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, we can, if this ends up going into like a whole bunch of like BLM stuff, I mean, we can get to that, but that has no bearing on whether J6 would be considered an insurrection or not. So,
Okay, so 2 minutes and 57 seconds. That completes round one. I will restart the clock. We'll move into round two. I'll turn it back to you, Andrew. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll turn the clock on.
So I'm not claiming that this has anything to do with BLM. I'm doing an internal critique and saying that if you're going to apply these nebulous standards to this, then you must apply them to this. If this category, if category A over here, also would include everything which includes a riot, then we would need to know what the delineating factor is. He claims here there must be some federal element. However, that's not in his definition. His definition does not include any federal element. To go over his definition again, an assemblage resisting
Well,
law
he explained
by
why,
force or
though.
intimidation for public purpose. It doesn't say anything about a federal element. He just pulled that out of his ass. I don't know where the hell he got that from. It's definitely not in his
Just
definition.
pulled it out of his
if
ass.
it was,
Oh,
he should
mega
have
lol.
said that that was in his definition. He said he keeps going back to this illogical idea that just because X doesn't happen doesn't mean X isn't true. Yeah, that's true, but it also doesn't mean X is true. So making the claim that, well, wait a second, Andrew, just because they weren't actually charged with insurrection doesn't mean they weren't guilty of insurrection. Well, that's nice, but it doesn't mean they were either. And I have the evidence on my side, as none of them were actually prosecuted for insurrection. None of them were prosecuted for insurrection, and Trump was acquitted for inciting insurrection. So the evidence is on my side. He would actually
No, he wasn't
have
really
to
acquitted. The
demonstrate
Supreme Court
that
gave
this
him immunity
was an
from that.
insurrection, and that they were all wrong, that they were completely incorrect in not charging it this way. He just keeps saying, well, there's a variety of reasons why they didn't. Well, that's nice. Couldn't one of the reasons be because it wasn't an insurrection? Yes, that seems to be a very obvious reason, doesn't it? Going back to my opening, I just want to kind of point out that Destiny has changed his entire idea on this, whereas at first he claimed in 2021, this was in no way an insurrection, that it fit the criteria of a riot better from anybody who's looking at it objectively. I agree with him. That's exactly what it fits. But he still has not demonstrated at all that this was actually an insurrection. He just says, well, I have this nebulous definition. He also says, give me a counter definition. It's not my burden to give you a counter definition. What do you mean? I'm not calling him insurrectionist. You're
So,
calling him
in his
insurrectionist.
eyes,
I don't have
what
to
Destiny has to
define for you
do
what
is
that-
define his actual definition of an insurrection. So he has to define Andrew's fucking definition of an insurrection, give it to him, and then hold up like, okay, this is what makes an insurrection. And he has to agree with it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
just
stupid.
asinine. That's asinine.
Yep. Yeah, he's gonna try to do the childish, like, semantic word game. And then, like, even when Destiny gives him, like, a sufficient answer, he's gonna go, well, I don't think so.
Exactly.
I hate it.
It's an unwinnable
You
position.
have
It's
to
just
define
bad
for
faith.
me what that
Unwinnable
means. Giving me these
matchup.
4 elements here is
Feels
meaningless
sad, man.
unless you can tell me what goes in those categories specifically that does not go in the category for rioting. Because as I look at an assemblage, resisting any law by force or intimidating or for public, that could all just be rioting. That does not really tell me what goes in the category. You didn't include federal anything. So I would like for you to actually expand on this definition so I can understand what the hell you're talking about and why the J6ers specifically fit this criteria.
All right. That is 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Destiny, I'll turn it to you whenever you're ready. And we are in round 2 right now, the bottom of round.
Yeah, so people, like, again, so there's two parts to the insurrection, two elements that I don't think would fit. So the first one is an assemblage. That would clearly fit a riot, I think, but it would fit a riot and it would fit an insurrection. The second part is resisting a particular law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. There are plenty of riots that aren't riots to resist like the implementation of a law or to interfere necessarily with like some government proceeding. We can imagine a million reasons why people might riot outside of a baseball game. People might riot in protest to a statement that was made, or in relation to I don't know, the outcome of a sporting event. Like, there's tons of people that can riot that aren't rioting with the goal of resisting the implementation of a particular law or trying to interfere with the course of some government proceeding. So the part two, the second element I've listed, really wouldn't comport with most riots. And then the third one is the third element, by force or intimidation. I would say that riots generally have a forceful or intimidating aspect to them, although they generally happen spontaneously. Usually they're not planned in advance to use like force or intimidation. To quote Justice Greer, quote, legal authorities carefully distinguished planned insurrections from spontaneous riots. Justice Robert Greer charged the grand jury in the United States v. Hanway that a defendant who was not leagued with violent resistors to federal law could not be prosecuted for treason. Greer insisted that spontaneous riots were not insurrections, that insurrections required a commitment to use force to resist law, not spur-of-the-moment violence. Most riots just kind of like happen. It's pretty rare that they are planned in advance, and I think we all agree that if they are planned in advance, it takes on a much different character, and arguably could call under it like different types of crimes. If people engage in rioting, it's not good, but if people are literally planning it out in advance, we are calling in a whole bunch of different crimes there than just the simple thing of calling a particular thing a riot. And then for the fourth thing, when we say for a public purpose, the fourth element, this is the second thing that I don't think most riots would necessarily be in opposition to, that we are insurrecting for some sort of public grievance relating to like the actions of a particular government. So like you might riot, for instance, like BLM might riot against like police violence, but there's not like a particular federal statute or federal law there.
Ooh, true.
In terms of me specifying the federal part, well, I mean, J6 was a insurrection against like a federal entity. Again, if we want to talk about like state insurrections or something, I guess we can, but the differentiating factor here, the reason why I have the federal part is because we're talking about federal insurrections, and especially for the 14th Amendment, the federal insurrection part is what we're kind of talking about. I'm not even sure if you can do a state insurrection. Maybe you can. But I mean, like, summarizing this argument, like the Colorado court found that Donald Trump acted as part of an assemblage, okay, that he helped bring into being. He called the people there. Trump was resisting the enforcement of federal and constitutional rules. He was contravening the 12th Amendment, and he was resisting the Electoral Count Act. Donald Trump, he took numerous illegal actions to prevent the peaceful transition of presidential power. This is like a function of the government. He engaged in an ongoing course of conduct aimed at producing violent resistance to the peaceful transfer of presidential power, and he was attempting to decide support through attack Congress. Yeah. Whether or not somebody's charged doesn't matter. Okay.
That is time. So what I'll do is that concludes round two. Andrew, I'll turn it back to you unless you want me to give Destiny a little bit extra time, and I can give you that extra time as well on the back end, but I'll let you choose that.
Yeah, I'm fine. He can finish.
Okay. Destiny, go ahead and finish. And
yeah,
I will...
sure. The final point was that my final statement is, okay, if you looked at the Colorado court case, they found that Donald Trump acted as part of an assemblage that he helped bring into being. It said that Trump was resisting the enforcement of federal and constitutional rules, that Trump took numerous illegal actions to prevent the peaceful transition of presidential power. He engaged in an ongoing course of conduct aimed at producing violent resistance to the peaceful transfer of presidential power. He attempted to incite his supporters to attack Congress, which they did, and that Trump's speech occurred sufficiently close in time and place to when and where the insurrection took place to be considered an incitement. Like, every single part of this, like, very easily and very cleanly meets the definition of insurrection. If we want to argue that my definition isn't clean or that my four elements aren't being met, that's, well, I don't know how we can argue that. I think all four elements are being met. If we want to argue that, well, every single riot would, fall into this, then we could say, well, fine, Destiny, I agree. For your definition of insurrection, fine, January 6th was an insurrection. Now let's talk about these other events, and we could talk about whether they fit or don't fit. Or you can give me your own definition of insurrection, and then we can go from there.
Okay,
Dang.
I added an extra 55 seconds, so we'll go into round three. Andrew, I will give you that, so you will have 3 minutes and 55 seconds to your time. So I'll start at the clock now.
Yeah, so again, trying to put the burden on me to give you a definition of your claim is insane. As we went through...
So he's just not going to give a
your
definition. All
here,
right.
it's really funny because I'm going to use your own logic back to you. Just because
It's
they
just
weren't
like, I don't
charged
got
with
it, so I'm
insurrection
not.
doesn't mean it
Yeah.
wasn't an insurrection. Oh, okay. Well, they were actually charged with elements of rioting. So I'm going to say it was actually rioting. And I'm also going to say that, wait a second, your definition here seems to be more about rioting than anything else by your own claim. An assemblage would fit a riot, says Destiny. That's his first claim. Resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. It wouldn't fit rioting itself, says Destiny, even though rioting itself is against the law. What do you mean? Of course it's impeding the law. Well, how could it not be impeding the law? Rioting itself is against the law. I don't know where the hell you came up with that. By force or intimidation, Destiny concedes riots require force for a public purpose. He concedes that's a riot. So really, under his definition, this is just a riot. The only thing that we're arguing about here is number 2, resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Let's try this again. Resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. A riot
So
itself
this is loop 1.
Resisting
Planting
the
flag
law
here right now.
because
This
it's
is where the
illegal
loop
to
begins.
riot. So I don't understand how that, again, would not just be a riot. All of these things seem to fall into the category of what people were charged with, which is much more along and akin to rioting than it is any type of insurrection. He still hasn't told us the distinction that fits in this category, why this isn't a riot, even though everybody was charged under that kind of branch of rioting and not charged for insurrection. This is a garbage definition. It's totally nebulous, right? And he keeps on saying, well, wait a second, Andrew. Why don't you go ahead and concede that unless you can go against all 4 of these points, well, I don't actually have to do that. All I need to do is say, okay, all of these 4 points fit a different criteria better than insurrection. And apparently he agrees. He agrees on point 1, point 3, and point 4. The only thing he argues is point 2, but his argument for point 2 makes no sense because rioting itself is illegal. So therefore you are resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Well, the government proceeding...
Wait, hold on. What's this guy in the chat? Hold on. Andrew destroyed him. If you could actually pay attention to something instead of having to play video games, you would have picked up on that clown emoji. Oh, for sure, my man. I'm just, I'll need you to point out, like, the exact point where Andrew, like, really destroys him.
Law if you're rioting. So all of these fall under the better criteria of riot, which is, it's totally consistent in my mind because...
Why didn't that show up
was
on
the
my
criteria
feed? Why did I have to, like,
people
pop
were
into the
charged,
stream thing
not
for
with
that? What the hell?
insurrection, and I really need
Should have been
Destiny to answer
very
to that.
right there.
Okay, that was 2 minutes and 40 seconds. You still have a minute left, Andrew. You're going to concede that round then?
Yeah, I'll let him go ahead and answer to it.
Cool. So I'm gonna. I will turn it back to you, Destiny. We're in round 3, and this is the second part of round 3. So your
Why
turn
did
to
it
start the clock back up for you.
Breaking
Why
a
did
law
it
and
not
resisting
pop
law
into
are
my
not the
OBS
same
chat?
thing. Usually when people riot,
Sorry, I missed your
they're
message there,
rioting for the
duder.
purpose of making
Huh.
arson or murder or whatever other
Okay,
crimes being
here.
broken to make those legal things.
Here.
Usually they're breaking laws.
50
not with
subs.
The intent of like
I mean, yeah.
resisting the implementation or the
I do this for
execution
fun,
of
man. How
law,
many
or
subs do you
resisting
have?
or,
Wait.
contravening the execution of like some function of government. When people were rioting on January 6th, the
5
goal of
subscribers,
that
buddy.
was to stop
5
execution of the
subscribers.
Electoral Count Act. It was to stop the purpose of the government, the execution, the function of government to do the peaceful
5?
transfer of
Really?
power.
And
Once somebody
you're
engaged in acts of
5?
breaking the law, they were resisting the carrying out of the law, the electoral Count Act, the ECA. And I don't know, we
Okay.
can loop on this over and over again, but again, if I can show you in Kenosha, if I can show you in Seattle, if I can show you a riot, if I can give you a video of cities burning, people screaming and throwing shit, of, you know, property being destroyed or damaged, and then you were to go, wow, that kind of looks like a riot to me, I would go, yeah, it kind of does. However, nobody was actually charged with the crime of rioting.
So I have
if you change your
118
mind on that,
subs. Wait a
it
minute.
wouldn't affect your opinion at all. Again, whether or not you levy a particular charge at a
Wait a
person
minute.
is way different than whether or not a particular event was a thing. Remember, when you levy a charge at somebody, a criminal charge, what you're really saying is that you can take
Okay.
a person and
Hey, we know it
prove
works
beyond
now.
a reasonable doubt that no
Okay.
reasonable mind would agree that something else could have happened in front
Now
of a jury.
the
That's what
OBS chat
criminal
works.
force. Proving that somebody engaged in a
Nice.
crime beyond a reasonable doubt in a criminal court is not the standard that we use to declare a particular thing a thing. You don't have to prove in criminal court beyond a reasonable doubt that a thing was an insurrection or that a thing was a riot unless we were charging somebody with an actual crime.
Okay, that's 150 on the clock. So that concludes round 3, and I'm gonna turn it to you, gentlemen. You guys can let me know what you want. We can either do another round of 3 minutes uninterrupted debating, if you guys want to formulate your arguments a bit more, because I know there is some.
I would like to do one more round if we could.
Or Destiny, are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, and then after that, so we'll go into a fourth round with a 3-minute debate time limit where no interruptions. Then after that, we can get into the 5 minutes of discourse between you two where you can actually speak. But is that fair for everybody?
Sure.
Sure.
Cool. All right, so I will go ahead and reset the clock. This will be round 4. Take it away, Andrew.
Yeah, so this is an absurd argument. We'll go right back to Destiny's logic again. He says just because somebody wasn't charged with X doesn't mean X didn't happen. This is the same. This is complete and total obfuscation, by the way, because ultimately what's going on here is that these do fit the criteria much better for a riot, and under the purview of rioting.
Just
these are the
FYI,
charges
my
which were
love,
levied at these-
Roberto.
What do you want?
Your comments, your sidebar, just commentary, has been lining up perfectly with like the pauses in my movie, and it's freaking me out.
Hell yeah.
Like it's like you're nailing like the right reaction to the shit. It's freaking me out.
Well, you know what? Maybe I'm just like, I'm in your head, Joe. You know, that's what it is. I'm just in your head.
Oh God.
Destiny says specifically under point 2, he said, and he didn't answer to this. He said, resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding wouldn't fit rioting. Yes, it does fit rioting. It fits rioting better than anything else I can think of. Yes, you are immediately, upon rioting, resisting the law. And you are obstructing the law immediately. That is what a riot is. It's an unlawful assembly.
So my issue, right, is that like Andrew can't seem to like give a definition of like insurrection. So like him trying to like differentiate between like an insurrection and a riot is like kind of like literally impossible. Because
It's not that he can't. It's that he will not. He refuses to, as you will see later.
Yeah, and so like his entire argument kind of falls flat in his face because there's like he's just kind of like comparing like a straw man to a straw man without actually like engaging with like creating his own definition that he could like foundationally work off of and then like own Destiny with that. Instead, he's just like, well, I disagree with what you say because you're wrong.
How he could say this? In fact, each point he concedes on point 1, an assemblage that would fit a riot. An assemblage would fit a riot. That's point 1. He agrees. Okay. Point 3, by force or intimidation, he agrees on point 3 that is a riot. He agrees on point 4. He conceded on that as well, and then he just conceded on point 2. He couldn't exactly tell us why resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding wouldn't fit a riot. Of course it fits a riot. All of these, in fact, fit the events of January 6th.
What I'm confused about too is Andrew Wilson is talking in a way as if like a riot and an insurrection are like two mutually exclusive things.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's conceding that, hey, these fit a riot perfectly, the events of January 6th were a riot under this definition, which he essentially has conceded is true, then the charges were appropriate that this was a riot and not an insurrection. This could not have been an insurrection. His own definition proves that this is more akin to a riot. He still hasn't really told us, by the way, what an insurrection is, just these kind of 4 nebulous points. But these 4 nebulous points fit a riot perfectly.
Well, I mean, you left because I pointed out you had 5 subscribers, and you got pretty sad and angry about that. That's why you left.
On the second, he's basically conceded that as well, because resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding would fit a riot by its very nature. The reason it would fit a riot by its very nature is because...
Oh, no, my dude, I have tons of people in my Discord I'm hanging out with as well.
You're resisting the police, you're resisting. So, whether that's done at a federal level or a state level, I think it would still meet the same fate of being more akin to a riot. This definition really moves towards a riot and not towards an insurrection. He has not told us the distinction yet. And so, again, I think that the entire reason...
Well, I mean, the distinction onus is on Andrew, not him.
...with an insurrection, even though Trump was cleared of inciting an insurrection...
Not according to him.
...make justifications for why the other side deserves what it gets.
Yeah, but I think he's just completely unaware of the irony.
No, I'm sorry. This definition or this logic adds up. The logic of saying, well, just because they weren't charged with a thing doesn't mean it wasn't the thing. Fine, but that doesn't mean it was the thing either, and by your criteria, it seems like it was this other thing.
Okay, that's 3 minutes and 10 seconds. I will make the clock the same for you, Destiny, to keep it fair. I will start the timer if you're ready now.
Yeah, I guess we're just gonna loop on these points.
All right, and the
resisting
loop
a law is not the
begins.
same thing as breaking a law. If you
Who
can
joined?
show
Oh,
me
yo,
that
what's
there
up?
was a
Rick.
riot for people assembled, and the goal of that riot was when they were rioting, they wanted to riot to make.
Not as hard as I
rioting
fucked your mom's back up though,
and
buddy.
people had gathered, you know, in order to change the law in a particular
What are we going
area,
over?
and they were going to use force and
Andrew
intimidation to do it.
Wilson,
We're here to riot today because we're going to make rioting legal. Then sure, then we could argue that that's
Currently
insurrection.
Googling who Andrew
But,
Wilson
I mean,
is.
these are elements that were
Right, pretty
at
much.
the time. Nobody had any issues at the time charging people.
He's an
with crimes
actor?
of insurrection. Nobody had any confusion at the time
no.
historically. There were
He is a
rebellions, the Whiskey
debater.
Insurrection, the Burr Insurrection.
Yeah.
John
I
Brown's
put in
raids.
Andrew Wilson like
You
on
had
Twitch.
convictions
Well, does
of,
that help
you
me?
know, like a Pennsylvania farmer, I think, set
Okay.
fire to a house of a tax collector in 1794. He was charged.
Go
with
try to
insurrection.
ruin someone else's day though, my
John
duder.
Friesen
You
friends
seem like a
would show
very
arms that
unhappy
result from
person,
persons
and you can go be
charged with
unhappy
tax evasion. That
in
was
someone else's
considered
chat.
insurrection.
How about that? Go
In
suck a dick. I
1847,
fucked your
when
mom.
Hispanic and Native
Really,
Americans
really
attacked
hard, dude.
occupying
Have a nice night.
officials in New Mexico. That was considered an insurrection. In 1851,
Go be
when
happy
Pennsylvania
somewhere
took
else.
official
I
efforts
deal
to
with
capture
miserable
and
people
execute
all
a
day.
slave.
I
That was
am
an
good.
insurrection. In
As if I want to
1856,
deal with more miserable
when there
retards in
were,
my free
rival
time.
forces in the United States that were violently resisting the laws on slavery. That was considered insurrection.
Which chat are you
These aren't
responding
just
to?
like
No,
riots
just
or
some like
something like
retard
that.
who's like trying to like
Breaking
rip
the
on me for
law
having
by
low
being
subs when they
violent
literally
because
have
they
5
were
subscribers
resisting the law.
themselves.
They
So
were
it's just like, oh,
resisting
okay.
an
You can just
actual,
be
like,
miserable
federal
literally
law
anywhere
claiming
else.
that
Like,
that particular law shouldn't exist.
bye.
They were trying to air a public grievance through force.
That's
or
all the
intimidation
attention they really
and
deserve and
assemble a
need.
group of people in the goal of like overturning that particular thing through violent action.
But yeah, this is just like
and then
that
this
third
final
time.
thing.
But
There's a difference between
basically, all that you
resisting law
missed
and
is Andrew
breaking
Wilson
laws, 'cause you're
refuses to
engaged
define what an insurrection is, and he's asserting that J6 was a riot, and basically he's trying to claim that they're mutually exclusive things, and then he's saying like the onus is on Destiny to try to prove that they like are not mutually exclusive things, when Andrew Wilson is the one making the mutually exclusive argument. Destiny is saying you can call it whatever, but it was still an insurrection on top of whatever else you want to call it.
in a riot doesn't mean that you're resisting the implementation of law. People that are engaged in riots aren't usually rioting.
And this
to
is
make
like
riots
loop
legal,
number
to make that
1.
the equivalent. And then just the crime of X is not the same thing as the event of X.
And after
I know
this,
what
we're gonna
you're
watch
saying.
that
Nobody was
movie
charged
that
with
Joe wanted to
insurrection,
watch.
therefore There was no insurrection. If I walk into a room and I see a person's
And if it
throat
gets like
cut,
too
I
late,
cannot
I'll
say
just
that
like
there was
cut
a murder
this,
here,
react to
therefore
the
no
rest of it
insurrection.
tomorrow, and
If I
then
see
we'll just
20
go to
people sitting
movie
in front of
time.
a house and they all run away and nobody gets
Because I don't
charged
want to
with
burn the whole
arson, you
night
cannot say that an
doing
arson happened.
debate shit.
If I look on video and I see that there's 500 people blowing up, some shit, and they manage to run away, or the cops, can't arrest them,
I
people
am
charge them with like the
patiently
formal
waiting
crime of
and
rioting. Does that mean there was no riot that took place? The crime of
Oh, it's
X
gonna
is
happen, don't
different than
worry.
the event of
Don't
X.
worry,
And right
fam.
now, we're talking about if January 6th was an insurrection. Not did any individual person engage in the criminal behavior of insurrection. That would be a separate conversation. If we want to have that conversation, we could, but we would have to first concede that an insurrection did indeed take place on January 6th, and I believe that the
Oh,
Colorado
shit,
Supreme
did I
Court
fuck up?
engaged in good analysis, and they decided that an insurrection had taken place because it comports with all 4 elements that I gave to an insurrection that were commonly understood in the historical
Oh,
and
no, I
legal
didn't.
record around the time that the 14th Amendment was passed, when they were putting insurrection in the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to prevent prior oath takers from holding office again who had engaged in insurrection.
Okay, so that completes round 4 of the 3-minute uninterrupted rounds. If you guys are okay with it, we will move on to the 5-minute round where you guys are able to actually have open Discord.
Well, I have a quick
It's like
counter of Destiny.
giga bright, you know what I mean?
Purpose
It's
of,
just like
of
so in my
fairness.
fucking face. Holy
I'm
shit.
willing to do. I'm willing to do 2 rounds of internal
God.
critiques, and I'll allow Destiny to start with an internal critique if I can move
Yeah,
to an
that's like a
internal
little
critique
better.
after. So
Shit.
5-minute rounds of internal critiques. Does that sound fair?
What do we mean when we say internal critique? What does that mean?
That's the base is
It
just so
means that I'm just
intricate.
here to answer your
It's
questions
just like
for 5
giga
minutes, and
lagging
you're
my
here to
shit.
answer mine.
Okay.
Sure.
I see. I know what I
Okay,
need to
I'll
do.
let you go first.
Okay.
Okay, so okay, just so I make sure I have this right, so I can moderate it properly. Is he going to question you, Andrew, and you're gonna?
Yeah, he gets round 1 5 minutes, and then I get round 2 5 minutes.
Okay, so basically, so it's essentially a Q&A between the two.
Oh
of you.
no, this is just
Where-
gonna be
okay,
Destiny
so,
banging his head
if
against a
you're
brick
okay with that,
wall.
We can do that, or we can go to just open discourse between the two of you, where you.
I think I feel like I'd probably, because I feel like part of my argument is going to be that he hasn't put forth like a positive position yet for me to even attack or interrogate. So I'm not even sure what I would do on the Inquisition round. So I feel like it'd be better to just do back and forth.
Okay, well, if you want to do it back and forth, I'm prepared for that too.
Okay, but you guys are good with no more. You don't need any more 3-minute rounds to solidify your stance. No. Okay. So I will go ahead and set the timer here for 5 minutes. I will. I guess who wants to kick it off?
I can kick it off real quick.
Okay.
So, Destiny, would you agree with me that the motivation for demonizing the opposition political party often revolves around calling them traitors, accusing them of treason, and pushing for, some type of villainization that they are against the country, they are against you, they are against everybody?
Here, pause. I got colorful
For another
commentary.
debate.
Oh yeah.
Literally everything that he's doing is exactly what Trump does. That's his whole shtick. The entire thing is to say we're getting our democracy stolen. The government is being taken over by traitors. Yeah, they're all colluded with Russia.
I don't think Andrew said that.
No, not Andrew. Trump.
Oh yeah, well.
Trump. Andrew said to Destiny, do you acknowledge that when you want to win over, or you want to propagandize, you call the other side traitors and
I see
use
what
that
you're
type
saying.
of rhetoric. I'm saying it's ironic because if this guy is a conservative who also likes Trump, this is literally Trump's entire spiel, and I'm really ass blasted over the fact that he can't figure that out.
I'm sure Andrew probably is. Andrew's not exactly like a stupid person. He's just like really, really weaselly. So he's probably doing that on purpose, if anything.
He is.
Maybe, but that's not at all any of the subject here.
I just don't know why he keeps running from me.
Well, I think it is. I think it ties in.
It's like really depressing.
Like right now, though, you can't be a fucking conservative in this temperature at all. I'm a conservative. I'm independent, but I'm right because I'm slightly right-leaning. I have to say, hey, I'm a conservative, and all you fucks who like dick suck to the left automatically fucking label me as some type of neo-Nazi. The temperature's too fucking high for any type of centrist discussion.
Well, I mean, centrists are one thing, but it's just like my issue more on lies with like people who call themselves centrists, like Tim Pool, who are just sitting around in like their office chairs sucking Trump's dick.
I don't know who I know who Tim Pool is, but I've never seen any of his content.
Mm.
But as me, Joe, I do not want Trump as our president. I didn't want him as our president the last time he was our president. I don't believe in his policies. I'm a centrist who believes in like the nuclear family. My policies are closer tied to like home and hearth. And that's why I say, yeah, I'm a conservative. And I can't even say shit like that around certain people or certain groups without being labeled as being someone who wants Trump to win, because I don't.
Yeah, that kind of stinks. But that's just like party politic, like terminally online people for the most part, I would think.
No, that's also me. The type of person that Joe's criticizing definitely applies to me. I generally think if you are a conservative, you are absolutely in favor of Trump over any other elector.
That's literally one of the most ignorant fucking takes to have.
I think if you're a Republican, then you're in that camp. But I think if you're conservative, you're probably part of the.
I'm literally registered as an independent, and I have been for years. I'm on no side. I'm on the side of policies that I follow. But because of ignorant fucks like you, Rick, I'm fucked.
Well, you also said you're a centrist too. So are you a centrist or are you a conservative?
I don't know. I don't know these days with the fucking definitions and shit and all the other like off-reads and stuff. Here's what I can tell you about my political beliefs. I'm consider myself conservative because the far left wants to do away with the nuclear family, with the concept of nuclear family, right? And I'm someone that is for the nuclear family being two partners together raising their children and making sure their children have a good education and staying together for the children as best as you can if you're able to. And that
everybody wants that though. Literally.
Yeah, I was gonna.
No.
I didn't want to interrupt.
That's not even fucking that's not even fucking true, because every time I turn around, there's articles about how the left just wants to do away with the nuclear family. The nuclear family is like whatever.
What you're describing is the left is the far left, though. This isn't.
Okay.
This is not the liberal experience.
People like you, Rick, if you just automatically hear conservative and attribute it to being a Trump tard or a MAGA fuck, are the reason why people like me, who are essentially like politically homeless, for a lack of better wording, can't have a voice.
I don't think that's fair or true. I think, based off statistics alone, if you identify as conservative, you are more than likely to vote for Trump than any other candidate. Whether or not you actually like Trump or not, it's up for debate. I'm not going to say that, oh, you definitely like Trump.
Better
Maybe I
run
should
pickle
walk
with
back on that,
politics.
but you definitely would rather vote for him than the Democratic Party, for sure.
I think it could
And-
be true, and I think we should cancel Rick.
Real
Fuck Rick.
true.
Honestly, it's just people like Rick that honestly annoy me because, and the reason I think I'm so heated is because my mom and I were talking about this. My mom is 73 years old, bless her fucking heart, and she's a lifelong Republican who voted for Biden because she didn't want a Trump. And I voted, or I didn't vote, but because I didn't want Biden or Trump. And the reason I can't talk with like people in JSOX community is because even if I say the word, yeah, I'm conservative, or I consider myself conservative, or I seem to be conservative, I get the same type of replies or views that like people like Rick hold, which is like, oh, you're a Trump faggot. It's like, no,
Whoa.
fuck you, bro.
Whoa.
Sorry. You're a Trump tard. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
And it's like, you know what? Fine. Then I'll just not have a voice and I'll not have a political home, and that's the way it is. And ever since Biden dropped out, you know, I feel that the climate's even hotter right now to where I can't, or people akin to the views that I hold can't have any type of conversation with anybody unless they directly align with like my beliefs, because I'll just be told, oh, you're a Nazi, oh, you just want Trump to win, oh, you're a Republican. And no matter how many times I say no, I'm independent. Like I've been independent since the day I was able to register to vote. It doesn't matter because I'm not following one side or the other. I'm not able to be locked into a box. And it sucks. That's just my personal input. It fucking sucks.
Okay. Valid. The problem is, though, you are struggling to identify yourself as conservative, regardless. If I were to talk to somebody and they said, I'm a liberal, I would assume that they would always vote Democrat over Republican, the same way that I would think about conservatives. And Trump is the leader of the Republican Party at this point, so when I hear conservative, and I'm going to more than likely think that they are voting for Trump. Same shit that I would for a liberal. It has nothing to do with being conservative or being against conservatives. That's just a fair take.
It's not a fair take. To me, it sounds like, Rick, you have a lot of growing to do, and you need to realize that in between the left and right, period, there are gray areas, and
I
that'll
will
help
say
you grow.
too,
Do you think
like-
statistically you're right at all?
Wait. I will say too, like before you start, like you also in this like little talk here have done the same thing that you're accusing Rick of doing, where you say like, oh, like everyone on the left wants to get rid of the nuclear family. Well, once again, you're like strawmanning him into a position he may not have. Like,
Yeah.
but
I didn't want to say anything.
but then when that it's sorry, but then when that happens back on you, it's like, you know, that's where your complaint is. That's where your pain is coming from. Like, it just
I see what you're saying, but I'm going to push against it because I stated a policy and a belief. He stated a political position. He's like, oh, if you're conservative, you're Trump. Whereas I just stated a belief in a policy. That's completely different.
No, it's not, because you actually attributed that to the party itself. You said everyone on the left wants wants to get rid of the nuclear family. So like everyone on the left, Dems on the left, like, yes.
I think, can we all agree when we say everybody, we don't literally mean everybody?
No, we definitely do.
Definitely.
We all,
100%.
yes.
For me, it's the majority.
Okay, yeah, so we're in agreement. So why the hell would I consider you part of that majority?
Because of what you just said, Rick.
No. No.
Like,
If-
let,
if-
all right, you
if
know what?
this- no.
Listen, no. I
listen,
want
listen.
you to
If
hear.
you
No,
think
let,
what I'm
I
saying
want you. No,
applies
no,
to,
no, 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 no,
then
no.
it
Please,
does.
please.
That's the point.
I want you to hear this. I want
If
you to
the
hear
boot
this.
fits.
Wait. Stop. I want Rick to hear this. I'm taking my frustration and putting it on you, and I shouldn't be. My frustration has actually stemmed from multiple conversations I've had with other people, and I'm utilizing the time that you are utilizing to express your feelings to take my frustration out on you, and it's not you. It's not. It's like I don't know what I am. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I went with being an independent voter, because sometimes the people on the right make really good points and I agree with them. But
Like what?
I'm in Obama era.
No. Let's not even go there yet.
I'm an Obama era liberal. I voted for Obama twice. I voted for the support of gay marriage and everything like that. And I feel like as a 36-year-old, that time has gone too fast and I'm not able to like catch up. And because I'm not able to catch up, I still have the mindset of an Obama era liberal, but it's like I'm boxed into a position that appears to be considered conservative. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but you're thinking about it in a wrong way. If you say you are a conservative, I am going to assume that you are a Trump supporter or you're going to vote for Trump, one or the other, over the Democratic Party. The same way that if I approached a liberal and said, I'm going to assume that you are going to vote Democratic. What I did not say was, oh, if you are a independent or a centrist who happens to be a little bit more conservative leaning, you're definitely a Trump supporter. That's not what I said. And you're fitting yourself into a mold that I did not even categorize you.
And that's why I said to you when I was like very rudely continuously cutting you off, is like I'm taking my frustration out on you, and it shouldn't be on you. It should be on the people that are so close-minded, that aren't you, that aren't willing to see past the things like you're able to state here that you see. Because those are the types of people that when I do, and I'm going to be blunt, because of my like position, I don't feel like, especially in the communities that we all share together, I can really talk about it. And the few times I have, I'm automatically boxed into being a mega Trump person. And it makes me really angry because it's not true. I just really feel like I don't have any type of box that I can slide into and feel comfortable in.
You know, I thought about that, and I think that's fair, because if I were to say to a liberal, oh, are you a liberal? And chances are they're not going to say, yeah, I'm a liberal, but I'm not a Biden supporter. Where nowadays, conservatives always have to preface that. Unfortunately, that's just the state of the political environment that we're in today, because Trump is so polarizing. But conservatives definitely have like a mix-up of whether they're a Trump supporter or whether they're not. But the sad reality is, if you're a Republican or you're a Trump supporter and Trump's running for office, they're probably going to vote for him if there's no other nominee.
See,
So
and
it
I'm
is
not
what it
voting
is.
at all, because here's the thing. I wasn't planning on voting when Biden was planning on running again, because I felt that was just the puppeteers behind the Biden current presidency are doing a good job, I think, personally. But to have Kamala, I just don't feel her ready for a female president. I don't feel that she's ready to be a president. She's a horrible public speaker. I've been watching many of her speaking engagements that she has been holding as VP, and it's just blunder after blunder, and it doesn't give me a sense of security. If I were to have a female president, I need her to be way more secure, and I just don't feel Kamala is ready. And Trump isn't a fucking.
He's the same person. Like, we're talking about, like, you know, a guy that is literally, you know, batshit fascist insane. Like, he wants to take over the country.
I'm so
He
tired
wants to get rid of, like,
these
every
words.
like institution. He is
I'm
insane. He
tired
wants to get rid of
of
every institution. He
these
wants to get
buzzwords.
cut
They're not
Medicare. He wants to
buzzwords.
cut.
They're facts.
These are actual his platform.
Wait, yeah,
It's
these
detailed.
aren't buzzwords though. Wait a minute. What would you call
They
someone
are
who wants to
buzzwords.
like? Wait,
Everyone,
wait, so then,
everybody
Joe, real
walking
quick,
around saying
What's the word that I use to call someone
fascist,
who wants to like?
neo-Nazi, and
Joe,
just-
wait, no, real quick then. What do I call someone who wants to like uproot democracy as I know it? Then what do I call that person?
Yeah, you can call
How do
someone
you know
fascist
for
if
a
it's
fact
true.
that's exactly what they? How do you know for a fact
Well,
that's
that's
exactly
literally
what
what
they
Trump.
believe?
Well,
This
that's
is
what
exactly-
Trump tried to do. So that's what I'm saying. In
And
regards
also
to
you
Trump
guys-
supporters,
Read Project 25 and how he's endorsed it at several rallies recently.
And both of you are coming at me like I support his policies. I fucking don't.
well, no,
I
I'm.
don't support his
but-
policies
We're not coming at
before.
you for that.
I
well,
don't
no, I'm
fucking
only coming
support
at
them
you because
then.
you say that these things are because you say like those words are buzzwords when they aren't.
Yeah, a dog whistle. Would you say dog whistle is a buzzword?
Okay, but I never said that.
I know you didn't say that. That's not what I asked. Would you consider dog whistle the word?
Do you have a
dog
problem with
whistle?
calling a spade a spade? Is that what this is coming from, Joe? Do
I
you
have a problem with people that are assuming things about other people to be these buzzwords.
Okay, but we're not doing that. We are calling Trump that.
Oh, you know everybody in the whole. No, you were just talking about the fact of people voting for fascists, making them fascists.
That's true.
How do you know that? You know every single person?
Because if you vote for a fascist, I'm going to assume that
You're
you support a
assuming.
fascist. Yes, of course.
Assuming. Exactly.
course.
And this is why
Okay,
I
but
made
Joe,
the
is that not a
clip.
safe assumption of a
This
Trump
is-
supporter?
Or
This
you're
is
too
why-
stupid to realize the difference. And I'm not saying you as in you, I'm saying you as in a Trump supporter. Okay?
This is why I made the quip. Quip. Please look it up if you don't know what it means, because it was a quip that I really fucking wish that mainstream media hadn't taught so many people so many fucking buzzwords because of this shit exactly.
You're right. Instead of calling him a fascist, we're just going to call him a dirtbag.
Maybe we
And
could be
by-
like Andrew Wilson and just make up own definitions of all our words, and then we'll just nobody can communicate with anybody. We'll just be staring into dark rooms, banging rocks together like the Neanderthals and the troglodytes did for many, many years before. Like we have to establish a set of like rules to live by. And to
J2,
do
the next
that,
time
you
I walk
actually
down
have
the
to-
street, J2, the next time I walk down the street and there's some skinhead with a big fucking swastika on his tattoo, I'm going to not call him a Nazi because that would be a buzzword.
Oh nah. See, now she's deaf and no. See, now I can't even get my point across because you all made her mad. You saw dunking on her. Oh, god damn it.
But
Frustrating.
the things that she was saying was stupid. I love her to death, but it was stupid.
I know. That's why I was just trying to have a more different approach than you guys would be like, whoa. Well, I mean, I get it. I get it. I'm just like,
You know what? The Andrew Wilson thing really got me going today because I don't like the idea that you can sit there and auto-win a debate by basically saying, you can't define a word for me, and I won't define it, but you have to meet my definition of this word. Now guess and serve me like destiny. This is fucking crazy.
yeah. I have like a bunch of I have like a bunch of people that are like fans of him in my chat. I'll be like Andrew Wilson because my stream title is Andrew Wilson L, and so I have a bunch of people coming in the chat being like, actually, Andrew Wilson W, you look just like you're liberal. I would expect you to look like Omega L, and then they just
I think
leave.
the motivation for why you're making the argument itself
That's
would have an
so
impact
big
on the
brain.
debate, but I am
Honestly,
not saying that it
no,
is
it's
some
hype because it just
material
boosts like my
impact.
overall like
Let's move
viewership
over
for the
to
night.
point
It's like
two.
poggers as
Point
fuck. I'm not gonna
two,
lie. I'm
you
hyping on
say
it.
Resisting any law or interference with the course of a government
I love
proceeding
rage
wouldn't
baiting.
fit
It's so
rioting
fun.
itself.
It's
How does that
it's
not
funny
fit
when it's like
rioting
this
itself?
easy, you
Of
know.
course it does.
Well, let's
Material we can. Let's
alright.
move over to point two then. Point two, you say resisting
No,
any
not my
law or
floor.
interference with the course of a government proceeding wouldn't fit rioting itself. How does that not fit rioting itself? Of course it does.
Well, let's say, for instance, the purpose of a riot was because you felt like the law wasn't being enforced. It wouldn't make sense to call that part of an insurrection. Let's say, for instance, that there was
I agree.
Let's say that there was a lynching of a
Pickle,
person, and you
what are
felt
you
like the
playing?
cops weren't, upholding their duty or whatever, and
this
so you
Fallout?
decided to have a protest that turns into a riot, and you all show up with the goal of
Yes.
protesting and rioting because you felt like
Oh
the law
god,
wasn't being
another
carried out
hefty
here.
mod pack.
Wouldn't
Did you
really
finish
call it
your
an
Skyrim
insurrection
one?
because they're not
Fallout
trying
London.
to contravene a legal process. Just because, again, you engage in unlawful conduct.
you ever
doesn't
finish
mean
that
you're
Skyrim
trying to
playthrough, Pickle,
resist, like,
or-
the implementation of the carrying out, resisting the laws.
That would be the same case with insurrection then.
No,
The
because when you're
insurrection
insurrecting,
would
you're
also
trying to
require
say
intent.
yes,
a
yeah,
few- I
correct,
think, like,
yes. So the intent
few
would
days
be
ago.
the
Oh shit. Okay.
contravening of the electoral count.
All right,
When
let me
people
see.
say we
So
need to march and make our
Sleepwalker is
voices heard on
definitely
January 6th to
the
the Capitol
Wild
grounds where
Wasteland.
people are going to protest. They're protesting
Oh, wait.
the execution
Wait,
of
Or
the
wait,
maybe it's
law,
not.
which
No, it's
demanded that
not.
Vice President Pence count
I like the
Oh,
way-
dude,
Donald Trump
this
didn't
is
want
random
that. He made it very clear in
teleportation.
the days preceding.
That's
I want-
what
Him,
that is.
Vance,
I want that.
Eastman,
That
Chesterov,
sounds
and everybody
fun.
else that was working alongside him.
Gifted is OP.
Okay.
Gifted.
Sidney Powell, everybody else, was saying that we need to prevent Pence from counting the electoral vote. That was the execution of a lawful government function.
Yeah,
It's
but
literally spelled
even
in
if
an
all
act,
of-
and that's what people are going there to protest
Yeah,
against.
but even if all that's true, Destiny, it still wouldn't matter because the events of January 6th themselves, the intent of the people could have just been to riot, not indeed to commit to any sort of treasonous insurrection activity. And you have failed to demonstrate this time and time again how this actually would meet the criteria of an insurrection. Them showing up, and just like your take in 2021, right? When you say, hey, look, the damage would have been way worse if they had shown up with the purposes of actual insurrection or some type of 1776 mindset. This is the most armed nation on planet Earth. How in the world can you say these people showed up specifically in order to do that? That makes no sense, man.
None of this law, none of that argumentation was stuck with her. People they obviously showed up to protest the certification of the vote. They were called there by Donald Trump
If
on
it's
January
a non
6th.
sequitur, then you in 2021 were using a non sequitur when you made the argument that from the appearance of this, it could not have been an insurrection.
2021 Destiny was incorrect because 2021 Destiny didn't have the historical context to understand an insurrection. If you want to bring him on here
Ooh.
and talk to him, you can, but I
I
don't
am
agree with
talking to
everything
him.
that I
You're
said.
not you.
I am 2024 Destiny. I've learned more things. I've done more studying. I've read more papers, and I've done more research.
Trying to
on this.
use like
There is actually a
old
strong
clips that
understanding
he
of
obviously
what an
from like
insurrection
positions
is.
he's
There was a
moved
strong
forward
historical
from is like
understanding of
really
what an
insane in my
insurrection
opinion.
is. And the idea that a bunch of people were called on January 6th, the date wasn't a mistake. When Donald Trump sent them down there to protest, when he said we need Mike Pence to do the right thing, what was he talking about? He wanted him to contravene the law,
Ooh,
and
hold
that's
him
what
to
people
that.
marched down
Hold
there
him
for.
to that.
Donald
Make him
Trump-
answer that.
Donald
What did he
Trump
mean by
said
that?
30 minutes before this began, that this needed to remain a peaceful protest.
No, he
on
didn't. He never
Twitter.
said that.
He did. I actually
No, he
have the
didn't.
tweet. I have
On
the
tw-
tweet.
he said
He
to re-
did. He did say that.
In the speech, he
did.
said to fight like hell, and in the speech, he said that we need to go down.
I'm talking about his tweets.
Why
a
would I
person
say? Why
put
is a
out- why
tweet
would a
this
person
positive?
put out a tweet to be peaceful if their intent was insurrection, Destiny?
Why would a person call a protest on January 6th? What do you think they were protesting?
What do you mean? They
Oh
call
no!
protest. People
There
call
you go.
protests
There you
all the
go.
time.
What were
That
they
doesn't mean-
protesting?
We're not
No
talking
way.
about
The
other
protest
protests. I'm
is
asking you, what was,
Hold on to
what
that.
was the purpose of the protest on January 6th?
The purpose of the protest was to go out and show support for Donald J. Trump.
For what?
Well, there was a variety of reasons. I
No,
think that
give me.
many-
Wait. Are you telling me we can't
I'm going to
understand
give
what
you
the
a
January
variety of
6th
reasons.
protest
You
was
can't
about?
say no. Are you saying there wasn't a variety of reasons why people didn't show up?
Nope. I think there was one clear reason.
Oh, there's only one reason why
One
everybody
clear
showed
reason.
up.
Correct.
Yep.
10
But-
seconds.
One
what
very
is the
clear
one
reason.
clear
Ooh.
reason. There was not a variety of reasons. Some people didn't show up just because they wanted to see what was
Shut
happening.
up.
Some people didn't show up just to support
Yeah.
the president. Some people didn't show up because they really like to go to protest. Everybody
Yeah,
showed
what?
up for one reason.
Oh, no,
I
no.
didn't say everybody showed up for one reason. I said they were called there for one reason, and that was to protest the certification of the election.
Guys, that is time. I'm happy to let this
Oh
play out
my.
longer if you guys
First
want.
person FOV.
And add an extra minute to
Myron's
the
like
clock. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, we can
Sure.
add an extra minute.
Giga
on
owned
that.
them
Clock, and
with the
this
clock
is
thing.
still round
Rip.
one of the open discourse, but just try to limit it to
That
1 minute.
debate
and then
was
we'll
the
go into round
stupidest
two.
fucking debate I have ever listened to in my
we
life.
can go from
I'm
there.
going
Any
over it
more
right now.
rounds?
No
At the
spoilers.
5-minute mark, we can now
Oh,
do that.
just
So
Yeah,
I'll-
I
Don't-
ha-
just
so I have a
don't.
problem with him ascribing motivation to all. He says there's one clear reason why everybody showed up.
I'm always
That's
hyped
clearly
whenever
not
there's like
true.
call-ins
doesn't
for
even
this shit
logically
though,
make
because that's always
sense.
kind of
He
fun.
could
You
never
know?
demonstrate in a million years that there was only one clear reason why everybody showed up. That's a nonsensical argument, Dustin.
That's not the argument that I'm making. If the debate
was the
was
argument you
if
made.
the debate is is whether or not January 6th is an insurrection. Not did every single person on January 6th engage in the crime of insurrection, or did every single person on January 6th go with the intent to commit
Then why
an
did you
insurrection.
say there was one clear
I
reason
said
why
that there was a
everybody showed
clear
up?
reason why people were called there, because there was. Donald Trump called people there to protest not on January 5th and not on January 7th and not in a random part of D.C. and not in a random part of the country. He called them on January 6th to the ellipses that was less than a mile walk away from the Capitol building, which is where he sent every single person after his speech. He called them there on the day of the certification of the votes,
That
after
doesn't tell
spending
us their
days
motivation.
trying to pressure Pence to overturn the election.
That
He
doesn't
told
tell
them
us their
that they need to go and
motivation,
protest for the lawful slates of electors to be counted, the illegitimate ones that he submitted, and people went
Well,
there.
even
They
if I grant
engaged
your
in violent
logic, it makes no
behavior, and they
sense.
managed to delay the certification of the election, which is
Destiny,
exactly
even
what
if
they. So then, do you admit then that they
No,
happen
I
to
don't
do
admit
exactly
even,
what
even if I grant your
they
logic,
they happen to do every single thing that an
Destiny,
insurrection
give me a
called
chance
for
to
without
respond.
actually engaging in an insurrection?
Give me a chance to respond. So, I not only do I concede nothing, but your logic.
We ran out of time on that round.
Sad.
So what I'll do is this. I can see that this is a dynamic conversation, and clearly it's going to go out the bounds sometimes of a time round. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and set the clock for 10 minutes. That completes round 1 of the open discourse. But I see that this is a dynamic argument, and me just stopping it randomly at 5 minutes would probably be stupid. So I'm going to let it play. I'll put 10 minutes on the clock and have you guys go at it. Is that okay with both of you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
This guy's the
Okay,
worst.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
What, Myron?
So, 'cause I don't wanna interrupt you
Yeah.
guys again like that.
No.
So I'll just go ahead and put 10 minutes on
He's
the
the
clock.
worst moderator of all time.
And I will.
I think he's been
start
doing
right now.
a pretty
You
good
guys
job,
can pick right up
honestly.
where you left off.
No.
Sorry about
So to
He's
respond,
the worst
right, now people share a little
moderator
bit
of
of time
all
back. You're-
time.
How's he bad? Wait, how's he bad?
All right, listen. His first off, his mic don't even work. He tried saying, "Whoa, hold on," like 10 times. So shit, moderator.
That's his audio team, not him. As a
Nah,
moderator.
That's him as a person, as an individual.
I'm just.
If your mic sucks, you as a person is bad. That's all I'm
I
saying.
won't spoil it for you, Roberto, but it's just watch.
All right.
Nah, I'm just fucking around. I'm
the
just
way now
fucking
we
around.
have 10 minutes, Destiny, but
right,
it's
now I
actually
trust
an illogical
Pickle.
argument.
It's never led
to
me
say-
straight.
to
I
say
watched the whole
even
thing.
if
It
Donald
was.
Trump had some certain intent in his head. That would not mean that the people who were showing up for the protest had that intent. So the thing is like for you, both ways, it's a double entendre for your own logic. Either one, you claim, wait a second, there was one clear reason everybody showed up, or two, no, there was no clear reason why everybody showed up. They had multiple motivations, even if Trump himself had a different motivation. This is illogical argumentation.
I'm sorry, but this would never be applied to anything. If somebody says, "Hey guys, we're all going to show up
That's
so that
not
we
an
can go,"
argument
and
either.
I'm making the argument right now. If somebody were to make the call and say, "Hey guys, we're all going to show up to go and blow this building up," and a bunch of people showed up, and then a bunch of them marched with the crowd, and then they all went, and a building got blown up, we wouldn't say like, "Oh, well, we don't know what the intention of the crowd was. We don't know what the intention of the leader there was. We don't know what actually happened there because we can't divine the intention of every single individual
That's
person."
a
we can
ridiculous
say
straw
we
man.
can say that's you can call it a straw man, but the idea
is.
that in order for me, okay, hold on. What would I need to
So
show
hang on,
then?
let me
What would I?
respond
No,
to your
wait,
first
hold on.
argument,
What
and
would
then
I
you
need
can
to
no, no,
show?
no, wait,
What would
wait,
I
wait,
need
no,
to
there's no
show?
spurging. Let me
I'm not
respond to the
spurging, but you're not
argument,
even
and
letting
then
you're not even letting me talk. You can respond to my argument. and You can phrase the question as
made
part
an
of this.
argument. Let me respond, and then you can ask the second argument. I think that that's fair.
Okay.
So when you're talking about this from a logical standpoint, when you say, "Oh, if somebody called and said, 'Hey, we're all going to blow this building up," yes, I would agree that you could probably ascribe the motivation to it. Then, can you show me a tweet or any type of anything from Donald Trump saying, "Hey guys, show up, we're going to do an insurrection"? No, he
Yes,
just made this
I
shit
can.
up.
Okay, fine. So I can. So as part of Donald Trump's speech, I'll give you 2 quotes. "Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about." And to use a favorite term that
know when you're
all
doing
you
the
people
paper
really
bird.
came up with. We will stop
Okay, I
this
got you. Yeah, I was gonna DM you
Today,
when I
will
start
lay
the
out
movie.
Some of the evidence proving that we won this election.
Okay,
we won it by
perfect,
a
thank
landslide.
you.
This was not a close election. The first quote. The second quote. "We must stop the steal, and then we must ensure that such outrageous election fraud never happens again. Can never be allowed to happen again." When he says "stop the steal," when they're at the Capitol building on January 6th, and when the election is being certified, what does "stop the steal" mean there?
Wait a second. So, first of all, you're attributing to Donald Trump's rhetoric here something which he may not have intended. None of that actually shows or demonstrates that he was calling for an insurrection on the Capitol. You are just kind of
And then
ascribing
he
that
just so happened to
motivation
say the
onto
stuff
it for
argument,
purposes
yep.
of convenience.
Naturally.
You have to show me there where he calls, like your example was, if I
I
say,
feel like
"Well,
Destiny
I'll
only
show
took
up
this
and blow up
debate because
building,"
Andrew Wilson
that-
was the only person who was like willing to actually argue with Destiny on this because everyone else was clearly like too scared to. But it's just kind of disappointing though because Andrew Wilson kind of like just has like the same like generic talking points as like Rob Noor and every other like base level like right-leaning like rightoid.
Was your example,
Just
and then
like,
people
damn.
show up and do it. We can understand their motivation. I agree.
Only had like
You have
unique
to show
like
me where he
argument
says,
that
"Okay,
would be
guys,
like
call
actually
them, show
fun
up
to
and do an
engage with
insurrection."
instead of
You
just like the
can't
same
then take
talking
words
points
that
and shit
don't
from
say anything
like
about
every other
insurrection
person
and say,
that does
But I
this.
think he meant that though.
So then, just before I answer this, what would I have to show you to show that an insurrection was what Trump was planning? What kind of evidence
You would have
you
to
need?
give me the criteria first and foremost of something which fit the criteria of an insurrection better than some other thing, and you would have to make it refutable to that thing from what people were charged under. So if the criteria is, I'm going to give you what I think an insurrection is, and it fits a different criteria better than an insurrection, and under that criteria, that's what people were basically charged under, then it sounds like the other thing makes more sense than an insurrection.
So we're
That-
going with the
that
argument
totally
that for
seems to
X
track to
event
me.
to have happened, like some person needs to have been charged with the crime?
No, your logic there is faulty
Then
as
why,
well.
why do you have the second
No,
element
let me
there
respond.
for me proving?
Let me
Well, hold on,
respond.
you can't
So-
just talk for 20 minutes and then as soon as I say one
well, I
sentence,
didn't.
you
You
ramble
can't
for another
ask me
20
a
minutes.
question
Okay?
and then move
I
to
can
another
ask you a
question.
question and then ask another question as part of my question. I'm able to.
Yeah, but I
You
wasn't even able to
gave two
respond.
elements to what I needed to prove. The second one was that I have to show why people weren't charged with a crime. I've answered this thing 50 million times. We can center on just this one point if you want. Just because somebody hasn't been charged with a crime of X doesn't mean that an event related to X didn't occur. This is true of
Yeah, but
literally
the
every
opposite would
single time.
equally be true. The opposite is also true. Just because they weren't charged with the crime of X doesn't mean they committed the crime of X
I'm
either,
not
Destiny.
making that argument. You're using this argument as a way to negate my argument. Just
yes,
because I'm not making
it's
the,
called a
the
counter
opposite-
argument. Yes.
No, hold on. That would be like you saying John couldn't have murdered Jane because John wasn't there, and then I say, well, no, that's not true, and then you going, well, just because John was there doesn't mean that he murdered Jane.
Nope,
that's
the
not
opposite.
The element that I'm
Nope,
giving.
the
I'm not-
opposite
I've
is
given
true.
you four clear things.
Wait,
If
wait,
you
wait.
would
No,
like-
no,
would
wait,
you
wait,
like to
hang on. The
give me
opposite
an
is true.
argument that, or give me a definition of insurrection, or do you think
Stop,
it's
stop,
undefinable
stop.
thing?
Hang on. The opposite is true. I'm not saying that. So you say, oh, John murdered Jane, but that can't be true because he also may not have murdered Jane. You're making the claim John murdered Jane. And so I say, okay, that's your claim that he murdered Jane. Can you define for me what the criteria would be in which you would consider this to be murder? And you go, well, and then you define for me something that is not murder or fits some other criteria better. Would not a rational human being, including you, take that and understand, wait, if it fits this other criteria better, it probably isn't actually murder?
What part of can you give me an example? I'm just curious, and I shouldn't even engage with this because so just up to this point, you've given me no definition of insurrection. You seem unwilling to commit to a
It's
single
not my
definition.
burden.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying you've given me no
No,
definition
I'm not
of
gonna-
insurrection.
I'm
You seem
not- I'm
unwilling
giving
to
you
do so.
nothing.
So
It's
my
not my
question
burden.
would be,
Dude, he
can
literally
you give
won't.
me
Feels
a riot?
bad, dude.
Can you give me a riot that would fit all 4 points that I've given of
Not
what
my
I've
burden to
defined in
do.
insurrection? Well, then you must accept my definition of insurrection.
I
Because
don't
you're
need
saying
to
that, you're
accept-
saying
why
that
would
my
I need to
definition
accept your definition?
Because you're saying that my definition of insurrection isn't valid because it also applies to riots, and I'm telling you very clearly, no, it doesn't, because riots don't typically happen in a planned manner to contravene the execution of some government function or the implementation of some particular law.
That's
So
not
I'm
what your
asking
definition
you,
says.
I
Your
said- I
definition
said
says
it's
under point two,
resisting some
any
law
law.
or interfering with the course of a government proceeding.
Yeah,
Correct.
so you're just changing your definition.
I'm not resisting. Do you think that resisting a law is the same thing as breaking a law?
I think that it could be synonymous inside of people's minds, but no, I could see the distinction with merit. But when you say resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding, that sure sounds like a fucking riot to me, Destiny.
Okay, can you give me an example of a riot where that happens?
Where BLM burned down a police station. That seems like it's
First of all, that's
resisting
not,
the
that's,
law.
Yeah, so that's what law were they resisting the implementation of? What law were
the
they
law
resisting?
of arson, the law of rioting, all
Okay.
sorts of laws.
So you're telling me that those riots were trying to make it so that arson was legal? Can you point me to a tweet? Can you point me to a statement where somebody was saying we're rioting because we think that the laws against
Well,
arson are
wait a
illegal?
second. Can you show me in your definition where it says that the purpose of the insurrection is so that they can make something else legal? Because that's nowhere in your definition. Destiny.
Resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding.
Doesn't say
Yes.
anything about making something else legal. You just made it up.
No, you're saying that they're resisting the law of arson. Nobody's arguing that the law of
Yeah.
arson is bad. Just because you're breaking a law doesn't mean you're
What's
resisting the
What's
law.
the or? What's the or?
The or for what?
It says or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Would you not consider if somebody interfered with the FBI, for instance, for that to be interfering with the course of a government proceeding? Or if somebody interfered with police officers, that would be interfering with the course of a government
Police
proceeding?
officers are not federal police officers.
They
If you
don't-
want to
but
talk about
federal-
interfering
federal's
with,
not
if you want to talk
required.
about, if you want to, where you are, because we're talking about January
It's
6th.
not. We have your definition. It's not
Where did
required.
January 6th happen?
It does, we have your definition.
Why would I be
Destiny.
arguing about the definition of an insurrection in a state when we're talking about an insurrection that happened
Well,
on the
then
Capitol
can you
grounds?
show me in your definition where it says it must be federal? For
I don't
an
need
insurrection
to. We're
occur?
talking about an insurrection
Well,
that
then
occurred
if
on
it
federal
doesn't-
grounds.
It doesn't matter.
Ooh, hit
So
him
they
with the
need-
I
they
don't
need
need
the
to.
criteria,
Paul,
which
get
would apply
it.
at the state level would still apply at the federal level for rioting. It's the
I
same
don't know
thing.
if insurrections are state defined. I'm not aware of that in the historical record. Can you
Well,
point
you can't
somewhere
have a
where you
state
can
insurrection? Why
I'm not
couldn't
aware
you?
of some. Can you show me where in the historical record where that's ever
I'm
been
just
stated?
asking why you couldn't have one.
Because I'm not aware of any having occurred historically.
That doesn't mean you couldn't have one.
You just claimed that it's possible.
I didn't make a claim.
Oh, okay. Then we're not. No one is claiming here that an insurrection in a state is
No,
possible.
you
Okay,
are
cool,
making
gotcha,
a claim.
all right.
You're making a claim
I'm
on
making
your
a
4
positive
points.
claim that there could be a federal insurrection
right.
because I have a historical record of there being statements about insurrections federally and historically. I've never had a statement about a state insurrection. I'm not aware of any of those. If you are
Yeah,
aware of
but
one
you
of those,
not
feel free
being
to tell
aware
me.
of any doesn't mean that the criteria could not apply to a state insurrection, correct?
That's correct, but we're talking
Yeah,
about
that's
an
correct.
insurrection that happened on federal grounds, so we're obviously
Yeah,
talking
I
about
agree,
federal
but your
insurrections.
definition doesn't require federal anything. That's
Okay,
not what
so
your
we have
definition
no-
requires.
Okay, I think if this is if the only holdout you have is that your definition of resisting a particular law just means that you are breaking a law, then I think I'm satisfied at ending it.
No, it's not. Or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. This could be localized or
It
non-localized.
can't be. No one here has made any
Yeah,
claims
it
about
can
a
be.
non-federal insurrection. Okay, well, if those are your two holdouts that you think
Well, okay.
resisting
Well,
a law
what
is
is
same as
or
breaking
what
a
is
law,
or
or that the
interfering with the
course
course of a government proceeding mean? What does that mean?
The record that I'm invoking, we're especially talking about things relating to insurrection, and we're talking about the invocation of insurrection, which is my understanding has only ever happened in federal law and in stuff relating to the United States government, not a state government. If you want to show me it happening, or show me a historical record, or a state constitution, or a state criminal statute that references insurrection, then we can talk about that if you want to.
What
We're
does
arguing
or
about-
interfering with the course of a government proceeding mean, Destiny?
or interfering with the course of the implementation or the execution
30
of some
seconds.
particular federal law?
It has to be federal?
Yes, because we're talking about the federal government. We're
No,
talking about
that doesn't mean it.
insurrection.
Hang on.
Yeah.
So you're doing a classic kind of Destiny bait and switch, where you say in this particular case it would, because that's what we're talking about. Okay, that's fair, but that doesn't mean that that's what the definition says. The definition itself does not say that it must be federal.
Who-
It
do you
doesn't
even
say
agree
that.
with my what
Hang on.
definition are you
It
referring to
doesn't
here?
say that
Oh, no,
anywhere.
it's
What does
unwinnable.
or interfering with the course of a government proceeding
10 minutes?
mean? What does it mean?
That real quick, guys. That is 10 minutes. What I could do is, because I see that there's a discussion here between federal, if an insurrection could be federal or state, I will go ahead and reset the clock. I think maybe this is something that we can kind of hone in on. Can an insurrection be? Obviously, we're talking about it from federal level, but can also be at a state level. Do you guys want to shift that conversation to there and make this round specifically for that? Are you guys okay with that?
I don't know. I don't. A state insurrection. I'm just not even aware of that even being a thing. I don't think I've ever heard
Well,
of
I
that.
don't know, Destiny. Were the DC cops local?
I'll put the clock for
The DC cops were federal.
No, all of them were federal, eh?
The District of Columbia is federal. Yes,
so they
it's
have
federal.
no state police there at all?
What state police would they have there?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I don't believe so. No, I'm pretty sure even the
Okay.
National Guard there directly, like the chain of command goes up to the president, not a state
Do
governor.
states have state governments?
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't understand why you couldn't have an insurrection against a state government by
You
this
should
definition.
consult the historical record and come with an example next time.
Well, just because you never have one, I'm asking you if you can.
I'm not here to debate whether or not you can have an insurrection against a state government. I'm here
Well,
to debate
I
whether or
don't
not January
understand
6th was an
that if your
insurrection
definition
because
doesn't include
January 6th.
federal.
No, this is like asking if a murder occurred on January 6th. In that case, I would only be talking about murder as it's defined in federal law, not in state law. We're talking about an insurrection on whether or not January 6th was an insurrection or not, so I'm only going to be appealing to federal law or federal historical understandings
Yes,
of an
but
insurrection against the
wait,
United
but-
States. So I don't know why we're saying, well, what about a state insurrection? I don't know. I'm
Because-
not even aware of a
well,
state insurrection as a possible
because
thing. I've
this
never
is a
heard of that reference
semantic-
before.
this
It's
is
not
a
semantic,
semantic
it's legal,
distinction.
and it's historical, and that's where the understanding is
No,
rooted
I'm
in.
fine with a semantic distinction. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm actually just trying to make one. So you agree that that you gave me a definition that it nowhere includes the word federal, correct?
I also didn't give you a definition that includes the word human, or that includes the words like in this present point of time and not like in the future or time traveling in the past, or that doesn't include like dimension C138, or that like there's a million other things that I
what?
didn't include.
Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Because why would I include the definition of against the United States when we're talking about an insurrection that happened on federal grounds?
Because
if you want,
your
I could. If you
definition of
want,
an
I could simply
insurrection matters.
add. Okay, well in that case, I will simply add on my second part.
Aren't you appealing to a state court, for instance? Like, what are you talking about here?
Appealing to a state
This
court.
mod is a lot harder than I thought.
Aren't you appealing to a state court for this definition? Isn't that what you said? Did I get that wrong?
I'm appealing to right now. I'm appealing to federal history. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm asking, where did you get this definition? Let's start with that.
There's a writer who studied. I think it was constitutional law, specializing in the 14th Amendment. His name is Mark Graber, and these are the 4 qualifications that he basically lists out, and then he goes through a number of historical examples to say as much. There's also a much longer paper written about the I think it's like the sweeping power of Section 3, written by I think Baud and Paulson, who write like a 130-page paper where they go through listing like the historical understanding of insurrection. If you want, we can dive through any part of the paper, or we can dive through any part of the definition.
Does he say in this paper that it's a requirement that this be done at the federal level?
I don't think anybody talks about state insurrections. I don't think you can levy war or engage in insurrection against a state. I'm just not aware of that. I've never heard of that brought up before.
Yeah,
like I don't think, like for instance,
asking.
like when you say treason, if I were to give you a definition of treason, I don't know if you can commit treason against like the state of Iowa. I think that's only a federal crime.
I have no idea either. This is why I'm asking.
I can't say I can't say for sure because maybe there is evidence of it out there, but I didn't come prepared to debate that because it's a debate about federal insurrection.
All
on
I'm
January
doing
6th.
is doing an internal critique to try to figure out if this is consistent across the board, your definition. I'm not even saying that there's necessarily anything wrong with it, but what I am saying is that there's something wrong with the fact that it seems to fit rioting far better than it would in insurrection. So if we go over these one at a time, an assemblage would fit a riot. That's what Destiny says. By force or intimidation fits a riot. That's what Destiny says.
Well, it's an assemblage of people for a common purpose. Okay,
Yeah.
An assemblage of people. Yes.
Mhm.
So
Riot.
they come for a common purpose. Okay, and then 2
Okay.
is to resist any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Right, resisting a
or
law.
resist, yeah.
Resisting a law. That's not just breaking a law, but you're there to resist a particular law. There's one you really don't like, and then 3, you're showing up for force or intimidation.
We have the or there. We have the or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Wouldn't that be even resisting police? Wouldn't that qualify for that?
No, a government proceeding would be like the Senate confirming like an officer of the executive agency, or like
You
a
would have to
confirmation of a Supreme-
demonstrate that. I don't believe that that's true. I think that you can interfere with government proceedings, even absent there being some actual proceeding that you're interfering with. I think that
Well, if you would
this
like
can
to
be done with
introduce
just localized laws.
That's fine, and if you would like to introduce your own unique definition of insurrection, you can do
Why would
that.
I
But
need to
I'm
do that? We
because
have
I'm
yours.
unaware in the historical record of anybody suggesting that interfering with police officers is a matter of insurrection or can lead to an element of insurrection. I'm just
Are
not
there
aware of
laws
it.
against rioting?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I know there's laws against like things that happen in rioting. I don't know if there's like
Yeah.
a law of rioting.
Okay.
Are you
Bye.
are you resisting those laws
damn,
when you're
Rick left.
rioting?
No.
You're not
Rip.
resisting those laws when you're
No,
rioting.
unless you're literally rioting
No.
to say we should make rioting legal or we need to get rid of the prohibition on rioting.
And that is
Wait, why would that be a qualification to resist the laws?
Because
Destiny?
breaking the law and do you acknowledge that breaking the law and resisting the law are not the same
Well,
thing?
tell me what the distinction is, so I'm not confused anymore.
Breaking a law is when you do something that's illegal, and resisting the law is saying that this particular law shouldn't exist.
Yeah, Myron is kind of a shit moderator.
Yeah, okay,
I
but
see what
if
you're
you're
saying now.
rioting, how do you go about resisting a law?
Well, you could riot for the purpose of overturning a particular law. You might say,
Yeah,
I
but
don't
you're
like
resisting other laws then, right?
No, you're not. You're not saying that rioting should be made legal.
Yeah, but even if you weren't, you would still be resisting laws that were on the books against rioting.
So if I can't divorce, okay, we can just disagree here. Do you think that resisting and breaking the law are the same thing? We're in an impasse.
I didn't say that they're the same thing. I said that necessarily, if you're rioting, to resist some other external law. So let's say I
You
think
can,
that
hold on.
there's
Do you agree?
some-
We
I
can do
think
this
I-
really
let's
easy.
say-
Do you agree that you can
hang on,
engage in
hold
rioting? No. Do you agree that you can engage in rioting and accept that you might get arrested for rioting?
Yeah.
Then that defeats your entire argument. You can
How?
engage in rioting without resisting the law of rioting, understanding that
Yeah,
well, I'm going to
but
riot, but I might be arrested
actually,
for
that
it.
makes my argument. That makes my argument. So the thing is that even if I concede that it's true, that you could be, rioting with the expectation that you get arrested for this X thing, right? You could do this for murder as well. You could do this for basically anything. You could commit any crime with the expectation that you could be arrested for the crime itself. But that would not say that you're not resisting whatever the current laws were that were on the books about that crime. You're saying that the necessity here is that you are resisting some other thing. Fine, but you're also resisting laws by the very nature of rioting. So I don't know why you would have to have something which is externalized while you yourself are still breaking laws. I don't.
How are you resisting the law? How are you resisting laws of rioting by rioting? What does
because-
resist mean to you? Though?
So,
How do you define
assuming,
resist?
Yeah. So assuming, I can give you an example of this. Let us assume for a second that people are rioting in an abortion clinic because they want abortion overturned. I think this is the spirit of your argument, right?
Yep.
So they're rioting in an abortion clinic. They want abortion to be overturned. You would agree with me then that they are pushing against abortion, but they're still breaking laws while they're rioting, right? So they are resisting current laws, even though they're resisting another current law. And I don't think that you would consider that to be an insurrection, even though it could fit all of the criteria of these elements. It's an assemblage, for sure. You're resisting some other law that you don't like, or you're interfering with the course of a government proceeding. You would say that that fits criteria too. You would say that this is by force or intimidation, and you would say it's for a public purpose. But that clearly is not an insurrection, Destiny.
The issue is that like abortion is not like this isn't a federal law. I could just grant you that we can move to the state example since you seem unable or unwilling to differentiate.
Let's
between
assume for a
state and
second that it
federal law.
was. Let's assume for a second it was a federal law.
Oh no.
Okay, you know what? Actually, we can do that. Let's say
Yeah.
that the federal government
Oh.
passed a law either allowing or not allowing all abortion. Okay, the government either allows it,
There it
everybody can have
goes.
abortion whenever they want, or nobody can have abortion. Okay, let's say that I gather a group of people and I say, listen, okay, fuck this abortion law. We're all gonna get together and we're gonna go protest. Okay, and we're protesting. The goal of our protest, all right, is we want to get rid of the abortion thing, whether it was passed or made illegal. Okay, we want to get rid of this law, and we're gonna show up with a whole bunch of fucking people, and shit's gonna get rowdy, and we're gonna, we know what we're doing. Okay, it's a day that
Yo.
the Capitol Hill,
Oh,
they're gonna
welcome
assemble
back,
on, whatever.
Rick.
We march down there.
I'm back,
and in
I'm
the course
back,
of
I'm back.
protesting, like it becomes a riot, and the riot and everything there was because of that particular law being signed into practice. I would say, yeah, that was an insurrection. You've shown up with a group of people. You're resisting the passage of some particular law. You're showing up through force or intimidation, and you end up exercising that, and then it's for the public purpose of a particular law that impacts everybody in the United States. I would say that is an insurrection. Yes. Would you say it's not?
If
Would you
a
say that
bunch
that's
of
not an
people-
insurrection?
Yeah, I would say that it would not be an insurrection, at least by this criteria. That would just seem to me, again, to be a riot. That would seem to fit the criteria, again, of a riot better than an insurrection. I still can't exactly figure out the delineation point. I'm trying to.
Wait,
And
can
now, to be
Andrew
fair to
even
you,
give
it
an
is nebulous. I
example of an
understand it's nebulous.
insurrection,
But
though?
I'm also not the one who's making the affirmative claim. You are.
Like, not
So
even
you're
a
saying that
definition,
bunch
but
of
just
fucking
like an
dope smoking hippies
example.
wanted to resist the federal law of being able to smoke marijuana on federal land, and they all showed up and they got stoned, and then they started rioting. That would be a fucking insurrection.
If they went
I
there
can
with common
give a-
purpose, they were trying
yeah,
to resist the
I could.
implementation and execution of a particular law. Yeah, theoretically it could.
Well,
yeah.
no, they're just
Say
resisting.
the Tea
right?
Party
They're just
was
resisting
a
the law. They're saying we're here to protest
good
attack, man, that
example
we
of
can't
a
smoke
federal
weed on federal
insurrection.
property, man. So they all grab their blunts and they
Yeah,
start
but
toking up and
I'm
protest,
saying I don't
right?
think
And then they
Andrew
start
Do you
can
have, I
rioting
need,
and
give
kick
okay,
one,
stuff.
though.
do you think that
Is that, hang on, I just want to make sure. You
Help the
think it could be
Christ.
yes, that would be an
the
insurrection.
historical record, it could be yes. Do you have any
Or-
definition of insurrection whatsoever? Or do you just
Don't
think
need to
not
give you
real?
a counter definition.
If you're not
This
going to give me a
fits.
counter definition,
Don't
I
need
can
to.
give you the riot definition doesn't include necessarily a public purpose. I've already given examples of riots that wouldn't fit my definition of insurrection, and I really only need to give one, and I automatically win. A riot could very much be in response to a particular sports team winning a game. Boom. That's an example of a riot. It doesn't fit my definition of insurrection. I've differentiated between the two. Unless you're going to give me any countervailing definitions, I automatically satisfy that element
Yeah,
of
but
my
I already
claim.
did. Or
And then
interfering with the course of a government proceeding in and of itself. I think that the necessity of rioting in and of itself. What if you blockade a federal highway?
wait, the necessity of rioting in and of itself. Wait, what?
I
No, no,
think,
hold on,
yeah,
wait,
I
wait,
think
wait. To be
that-
clear,
that
I just,
rioting-
do you
rioting
acknowledge?
itself
Do you
breaks
acknowledge that I
lines
just
by
gave you?
rioting.
Do you acknowledge that I just gave you an example of a riot that wouldn't be an insurrection under my definitions?
So I think that that would even be appropriate. I think that you could give me tons of definitions of riots that would not fit this definition of an insurrection,
Okay.
but that would not mean that this definition doesn't fit the definition of riot better than insurrection. You understand?
Wait, so if somebody was protesting and it got really violent after a sports game, how would my definition fit that better than insurrection? Fit that better?
What
than
if they were blockading a federal highway? Would that be interfering with the course of government proceedings because there's a federal law that says you can't blockade byways on federal highways? I mean, this is the thing.
I don't
is
know.
that
I don't think that
this
counts as
becomes-
a
this becomes
proceeding.
so. Do you see what I mean? Though this becomes so broad that we can begin to just add all sorts of things and call them insurrections.
What is the
Do
government
so
proceeding?
let me give you an example. So if we're going to be totally good faith here, right, which I've been trying to be this entire debate, and I think you would concede that, if we're going to be really good faith here, do you really believe that if a bunch of hippies showed up to smoke a bunch of dope on federal property, okay, and a few of them got wild and started a fire and kicked some shit, right, and fucking, I don't know, somebody got beat up with a bat because there was tens of thousands of them who showed up for that protest, do you really
Holy
believe
fuck,
that
this
that would
dude
be
is
the criteria of
retarded.
what most people think of, including you, as an insurrection?
if they didn't go there united by like a particular public purpose.
Yeah, okay. Destiny's saying it right now. Destiny's saying it right now. Of course, there's a huge fucking difference. The hippies aren't being led by someone to tell them to go do this. The hippies don't have this fucking orange man standing up there saying, "Smoke your weed," and then we gotta pressure the government into doing what I want. Like,
Yeah.
by
was
interrupting
earlier.
by interrupting a fucking proceeding. Like, of course there's a difference. Of course that's not an insurrection. A bunch of hippies going wild. What? Like,
Actually,
How the
it
fuck-
is.
how the fuck can someone actually like not consider that when making a point? Holy fuck! All right, so this Andrew Wilson guy is grade A retarded.
Yeah, you didn't. Have you never seen him debate before?
You said he was. You said he was smart.
No, he's doing this on purpose. He's playing the word game. You know what I mean?
Oh, he's pulling a Dan, is what you're telling me. Everyone's just Dan.
No, not
It'll
everyone,
turn you
but
guys on.
he's definitely doing. Either that, or maybe he is just genuinely like not that bright. But I don't know, the way that he talks with like such intent, and the way that he refuses to answer certain questions that are like ultimate defeaters for like his bullshit. gives me like the impression that he is a little bit more intelligent than like the average right-wing grifter, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
No, he's just a fucking weasel.
Yeah, he's definitely a weasel, but I tend to think that you need to be kind of like a little bit more intelligent to be a weasel than like an average like dipshit. You know?
Not really. You just got to be a bitch.
Mm.
Like that's it.
True.
Like.
Depends on the topic, because like here, like his refusal to answer this specific question is, I think, very deliberate, because he knows that like him giving any definition would immediately like give Destiny something concrete to argue against that he could just run around in circles on.
I don't know if that's something that should be allowed in a debate. If you are dodging a question, that's an L. You should be
Yeah.
able to articulately answer a question.
Especially about like the core foundational thing that you're arguing about, like was it an insurrection? You can't really have that argument unless both people are able to define that term. And if one of them is refusing, it's an auto L.
I'll be so bold to go back on my previous statement. Myron's a shit moderator. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
There you go.
I was starting to see it. Yeah, GG's. It's a wrap.
They were going against the federal law. They don't want the federal law. They're resisting.
Bro,
that
he's
federal law.
still streaming. What a
all I'm going to
god
end up doing is saying
gamer.
that, like, yes, this
What
would
a
agree
freak
as,
of
I would agree
nature.
this to be an insurrection. You're not able to demonstrate. This is why I'm asking you, like, historically, can you give me an example of an event that you don't think I would want to classify as an insurrection?
I
but
don't
would
think I need
classify
to,
as
because
an
I
insurrection.
think-
But if you're
because
just going to give me
so-
examples, where you're just going
don't
to
need to.
build these
Well,
events
here,
more and more, and
okay,
say, would
well,
that be an
I'll
insurrection?
take
Also,
it
like,
right
yeah, I would say that was an insurrection. Sure.
Nobody in good faith anywhere is going to agree with you that if a bunch of hippies showed up to resist the marijuana law on federal property, and then a few of them started a riot, that they would consider that insurrection against the United States. I don't believe you believe it. I don't believe your audience believes it. I don't believe anybody believes it. So if that is the case, that it's so broad that that will encapsulate that, I'm actually fine leaving the debate there too.
Okay. I mean, again, it doesn't really matter what we would consider to be an insurrection. The only thing that really matters is what the historical record says at the time was considered an insurrection. And
Yeah, well,
again, I
don't know,
literally
because
think
nobody's prosecuting anybody for it, so.
you don't have to. Well, you're just retreading. Technically, I think this might be a gish when you keep bringing up arguments that have been reviewed over and over and over again.
I don't
You can
think
keep bringing
it's
it up over and over again. But again, we agree that like we can walk in and see, wow, this person was murdered, and go, oh, really? Who was charged with murder? Okay, fuck. Or wow, there sure was a riot here. We saw that a riot happened. Well, who was charged with rioting? Oh, fuck, I guess. Like you don't need a charge of a particular crime, and the barrier or the bar for charging somebody with a particular crime is probably a lot higher than declaring an event a thing itself. It just doesn't make any sense to say because somebody hasn't been charged with a particular thing, a certain event didn't exist. We're not talking about criminal charges.
It also doesn't make any sense that to say that because they haven't been charged with a particular thing, that means they're guilty of the particular thing either.
I'm
That's
not.
the flaw in
That's
that
my
argument. I've pointed it
criteria.
out multiple
My
times.
criteria
Your
is not.
doesn't
you can
actually flow with this.
My
correctly.
criteria is not because they weren't charged. That's why it wasn't insurrection. I would never use that as part of my criteria. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, hippies everywhere. Don't show up to federal property to protest by smoking weed, and because if a couple of you start a fire, you're gonna get brought up on insurrection charges. Said nobody ever. That's insane.
I don't know why you keep bringing up
I just
insurrection
realized I had a
charges. It's not criminal
brony
charge,
try to
criminal
roast me in
Yeah,
this
criminal charge or
chat.
criminal
Wait,
proceeding.
what the
That would be a
fuck?
charge, right?
Yeah,
If we're
nobody's
bringing up
talking about
criminal
that.
charges.
Nobody's talking about criminal charges here or criminal proceedings here.
So you, but
What
you would still
the
consider that an
fuck?
insurrection, right?
An insurrection doesn't have to be a criminal matter.
I just want to make sure that you would still consider that an insurrection.
If all four elements of what I said were met, then yes.
All right, fine. Well,
Based
then
in
I'll leave the debate
pod
there. I'm good with that.
Christian
So what I'll
podies.
do,
Let's go.
so we went 7 rounds here, and I was just timing it and everything else like that. I see that there's obviously a difference of opinion in the definitions of what fits what, etc. So what I'll do is I'll go to closing arguments. I'll put, are you both okay with 3 minutes on the clock to make your closing argument? Or make it a little bit longer if you guys want, and then we can close it after that.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do, I'm fine with.
Destiny, are you okay with 3 or do you want more?
3's probably fine.
3 minutes?
Mhm.
Okay, who wants to go first?
Well, I open first, so usually the person who opens closes last.
Okay, so Destiny, I'll turn it to you. I'll put 3 minutes on the clock, and you can put your closing arguments here. And this was a fantastic discussion. Obviously, you know you have a good debate when the chat is like, almost 50-50. So I'll go ahead and turn it to you, Destiny, and you can give us your closing arguments, and then I'll go turn it to Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, historically, like there have been examples of things that were considered insurrections that were incredibly small in nature, right? I don't know if anybody died at all in the Whiskey Rebellion. I'm pretty sure everybody that got arrested for that was like acquitted. It was just people basically essentially protesting the whiskey tax laws. This wasn't a massive deal that had like explosions and gunfire and deaths everywhere. I think that we just don't tend to view things as insurrections as much anymore because we don't tend to have insurrections as much anymore because that's kind of become the new norm as the United States has, traveled through or journeyed through time. I think that the 4 elements that I gave, I think were pretty clearly met on January 6th. I think I've demonstrated that we can imagine a ton of events that are riots that wouldn't fit the 4 elements. I understand that Andrew has a really hard time understanding between resisting the law versus just breaking the law. Just because somebody goes out and they engage in rioting doesn't mean that they are trying to resist the law of rioting, that they're trying to make it that rioting is legal. That's the goal of that particular riot. Oftentimes, riots can be said to come together to protest other types of things where people feel like the law isn't being executed in a reasonable manner. To say that a bunch of people that show up and end up rioting as a result of a protest that's against like say, a cop they feel like wasn't fairly prosecuted is the same as a bunch of people showing up to resist the certification of the vote as laid out in the Electoral Count Act. It's just not at all the same thing, but we can continue to misread the second element of this, and I understand why, and that's because if you grant the definition or any definition of insurrection, January 6th almost certainly follows from it, and the only way to escape January 6th being labeled as an insurrection is to use either a ridiculous type of definition that literally nobody historically has ever agreed to, and again, you will never find historical citations, people that use these very unique and contrived definitions of insurrection, or you set this bar of evidence as being unbelievably high, which is saying something like Donald Trump needed to say, hey, everybody, we're going to go do an insurrection, and absent that, even if he's telling people to fight like hell, even if he's tweeting the day before, Vice President Pence has the ability to overturn the election, even if he's saying, like, we need to go down and march and fight like hell, take our country back, none of these things are going to matter if they don't actually use the word insurrection, which I guess means there's no such thing as an insurrection ever having occurred in all of U.S. history. I would say that if you argue with somebody who doesn't believe in a particular definition of insurrection, ask them, has any insurrection ever occurred ever? Which would you consider insurrection? And then once they start to consider something as insurrection, say, hey, well, what are the elements that make this an insurrection? Or even more, you could say historically, what have judges and lawmakers considered an insurrection? People like Andrew will never do that. Instead, they will just play word games all day and try to say, well, riots fit, and what about states, and all these other things aren't really relevant to defining insurrection, which, however you define it, January 6th clearly was.
All right. Okay. That was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I will turn it to you, Andrew, to make your closing arguments. And then, Andrew, from what I understand, you wanted to open up the phone lines, right, and have a discussion with people after?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Even if Destiny has other places to go, I'm willing to stick around for call-ins. I've always done that on the Crucible.
Sure.
And I'm sure there's people.
Right now, as we speak, Bills is firing up the phone line, so we'll get that phone number out and put it on the screen, and you guys can, Destiny, if you want to stay, you can telegraph to your audience, so we can answer some questions for the people. We'll turn it to you, Andrew, to make your closing arguments.
Yeah, well, it's really funny, this appeal to authority. Destiny grabs this entire nebulous definition from some guy that he respects on the internet, and then claims that this is some authoritative definition.
Who's
this is the authoritative definition.
What's this? Wait, what's that attack even? Wait, who's the guy Destiny is quoting?
And nobody was charged with insurrection. Nobody was charged. Again, one more time. Nobody charged with insurrection. Trump
it was a writer
that like was charged with. Talk about nebulous definition. He says, I'm playing word games. Meanwhile, he takes time today, all day, to assemble a 4-point, kind of, this is my definition, completely based on some other guy on the internet, which is crazy to me, right? This is Destiny's personal definition of what this means. And it clearly fits 3 of the criteria for writing right off the gate. We only had an issue with 2. And then when we apply these, and remember my opening statement, I said in my opening statement, this is going to become very broad, right? There's no way that we're not going to be able to call all sorts of things insurrections that clearly are not insurrections. We come up with the idea of what if a bunch of dope-smoking hippies all show up with the united purpose of smoking dope on federal land in order to resist the federal law. And then a couple of them start a fire, and one gets beaten up with a baseball bat or something like this. Suddenly, that's an insurrection. Clearly, nobody would think that that was an insurrection. Clearly, nobody would think that that's a completely unreasonable standard, right? But it's the Destiny standard. And the reason, again, that he had to have such a broad definition, the reason that he needed this, and he needed me to come in and give him some definition he could do an internal critique on, is because his idea that this was an insurrection is only there specifically to villainize the opposition for the purposes of demonization, so that when bad things happen to them, he can call them traitors. That's it. That's the whole game. It's been his whole game now for a while, and this is what got him on Piers and all these other things, which I recently reviewed, was that take. And so in order for him to justify that take, he has to make you a traitor because you don't believe that that was an insurrection.
Is he trying to say that Destiny is saying this shit for clout? Is that the insinuation, or am I just dumb?
Obviously, people are going to have different viewpoints on where they go, but that's, I think, the beauty of any discussion like this in debate, that, good debate always has people with different viewpoints saying, like, oh, I think this guy did better, I think this guy did better, so great discussion from both. I am going to open up the phone lines right now. I think the number is going to be Block Talk, Bills? Yeah. So, guys, the number is going to be 505-605-9740.
Welcome to Block Talk Radio.
Yeah, I remember, yeah. But, yeah, so that is going to be the phone number, guys, to call into the show. You can interact with us, whether it's me, Destiny, or Andrew.
So now, press 1 to hear.
Your show is scheduled to start in 33 seconds.
And you just, and Andrew, how do you normally run this? Yeah, 505-605-9740, that's the number to call in, guys. Again, that number.
Usually just whoever calls in, they have a single question, they answer the question, and then move on to the next caller, maybe like a 30-second, very quick back and forth, so you can get to as many callers as possible. Yeah. Usually that's how I do it.
Okay, no, that's cool, because we're going to
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Block Talk Radio.
Okay, so guys, the number to call in is 505-605-9740. Again, that number is 515-605-9740. We're manning the phone lines here at Fresh and Fit. So if you call in, if you super chat, we'll go ahead and put you at the top of the list. Get you in there faster. As usual, super chat the last 4 digits of your number. And I think we just opened up the lines. Okay, so do we have anyone on now? I know we literally just opened them, but. Yeah, we do. Okay, so as usual, guys, normal rules. If you want to skip the line, super chat the last 4 digits of your numbers in, and we will go ahead and get you on the line. Let's go ahead and hit the first caller here.
We got 6327. You're up. 6327. You're up.
Go ahead, 6327. And I'm going to be hosting a Zoom call after this, guys. Andrew, if you don't mind dropping in on Castle Club after this.
Of course.
Awesome.
At your service. Thank you so much for hosting this, and you guys coming in on your day off is very kind of you.
Too, if you want to jump in and talk to my.
Hey, you guys ready for me?
But yeah, go ahead. But we'll do calls for a bit, and then we'll switch on over to Castle Club. And
oh no, there's some guy like on the line that they can't even like hear. I'm mega sad.
Tell us your name, where you're from, and hit us with your question.
My name's Rick from Miami, Florida. The question is for Andrew. Very frustrating on his side to see the debate on his side, so I really do get an answer of what his definition is for an insurrection.
Are you asking me my definition?
Andrew's.
I'm not going to give you one. It's not my burden.
I feel like that's a cop-out. Okay.
No, well, then you need to learn how to debate, because you not knowing how to debate doesn't mean that I'm copping out. It's not my position. The affirmative position, the person calling people insurrectionists, is not me.
Wait, how are we supposed to have a debate on if January 6th was an insurrection if you don't even have a definition of insurrection?
Why do I need to have a definition? To note that whatever definition that you can come up with would be too broad to apply to this. That's not a logical statement either, Destiny.
No,
hold on one second.
Wait, hold on.
He came in with some facts. He came in with some points, but you didn't.
Okay. Andrew, do you want to respond to him on that, or?
I think we missed like 30
Yeah, I'm sorry. We were having an exchange. I missed the actual question.
I think his main criticism is he wants to know what your definition of insurrection is. Is that correct, caller?
Correct.
Yeah, it's not my burden.
Point on his definition of an insurrection.
It's not my burden.
Which way to not to not answer that kind of a definition of question, and he's using the words "it's not my burden" to cop out of that definition question.
Okay, why? How is it my burden?
Feels an insurrection.
So let me ask you a question, caller. Okay, let's assume for a second I didn't know what murder was, and you were trying to give me the criteria for what murder was. Could I logically give you a criticism for why that actually would fit something else that I do know what it is better than the idea of murder? Do you understand that, caller?
Yes.
Well, then what is your
I think
criticism?
what you're asking me is if something that you think fits another definition, would you be able to apply to that definition? And you could.
No, that's not what I'm asking you.
You're not providing an actual argument to that. Like, all you're saying is, well, this could fit something else. But you're not saying.
No, I'm giving what's called an internal critique. An internal critique doesn't necessitate an argument.
Hold on, this
So
doesn't make sense.
you
The
can
que-
give
if
an
it-
internal criticism.
If the debate has to do with whether or not a person was murdered, if that's the debate, was John murdered, and the entire debate is just you critiquing another person's definition of murder, but you're unwilling to put forth your own definition of murder, the implication is that you were never prepared to debate the actual topic of the debate, which is if
That's
somebody
not
was
the
murdered.
implication. That doesn't even make any sense. So, Destiny, let me ask you a counter question.
My argument is that is arguing in bad faith.
Okay,
That's not
thank
only
you.
is that not arguing in bad faith, it's arguing in the best
It
faith.
literally is
Destiny-
arguing in
Destiny
the
knew for
most
sure
bad faith
that he had the
possible.
burden, not me.
Let's get the next
Oh,
one.
no, wait, quick, hold on, because this has to be answered. Hold on. How could you possibly deal with the topic if you don't have a definition of insurrection?
Well, let's try. I was just getting to that. So let me ask you, Destiny. Let us assume for a second that you weren't sure exactly what murder meant. You weren't exactly sure what the criteria was. Another person was calling this group of people a murderer, right? You had kind of an idea maybe of what that was. And so you went to them and you said, okay, can you tell me what you mean by murder? And they gave you some other criteria that fit way better with something other than their definition of murder. Why would that be illogical or in any way unreasonable?
That's not illogical and that's not unreasonable, but that would
Right.
only mean that you would be successful if the debate is Destiny's definition of insurrection satisfactory insofar as defining January 6th as an insurrection. But that wasn't the debate topic.
As
It
long
wasn't
as
just
fits-
my definition of insurrection.
Yeah,
the
it
debate
was.
was okay. Wait. So how can do you agree that the prompt of the debate was January 6th an insurrection?
Yeah, why does that mean that I
How
have
can
to-
you answer that? Wait, do you not have to answer
Yes.
the prompt to a debate?
Yeah, so I'm not taking that. I'm neutral on it. It could have been. I was willing to.
Oh, you have
concede
no
that-
position?
I was willing to concede that it
Dang,
could
he
have been.
just
I said,
doesn't
right,
really
my
have a
opening in good faith,
position.
I'll make
Seems
concessions
like
based
at
under A,
least.
B, and C criteria. If he can make these demonstrations, you never did.
Okay, so then just to be clear, then just so we're all the prompt for the debate was January 6th an insurrection, and I came in with a positive, and you came in with no position.
No, it wasn't no position. It was that it's possible that it was. It's possible that it wasn't.
That's no
And I was
position.
willing to hear you. No, it's a neutral position. That's not no position.
That's no
Neutral
position.
is a
If somebody's
position.
looking, okay.
I'm sorry. Is neutral not a position?
Not really, no.
Oh no, not really. Does that mean no or yes, Destiny? Is neutral a position or isn't it?
For the purposes of having a debate, no.
Oh, for the purposes of having a debate, you can't have a neutral position. Destiny,
somebody hosted
Stephen
a
Bonnell
debate-
III, the
Yep.
best leftist debater on planet
Yep.
Earth, ladies and gentlemen, neutral on a debate topic
Yep.
is not a position.
Not to have as a debater. That's correct. If there's a debate saying is God real, and one person shows up and say I'm arguing the affirmative, God is real, and the other person says I'm a neutral position on that.
Oh, I
You
guess
could
you've
be a good
never. I
debate.
guess you've never debated with an agnostic before who's neutral. They're
Not in a
neutral on it.
debate on what that would be a debate on agnosticism or Gnosticism,
No,
not a
it
debate
could
on
be a
whether or
debate
not
on
God is
God is
real or not
real.
real.
Why couldn't you go into a debate agnostic about God being real or not real, Destiny? Can you explain that real quick?
Because
I'd love to hear it.
definitionally, an agnostic doesn't take a position on, or doesn't think they can have knowledge of the
They do
existence
take a
of
position.
God.
Yeah,
They don't
for
have
real,
knowledge of God. So
that's
why would
just
you
a
debate an agnostic
nonsense
person or somebody, an
argument.
agnostic person, or
That
somebody
makes
on
no sense.
Gnosticism who doesn't have a
It's crazy because like the other day, like when Andrew Wilson was like going over one of Destiny's debates, like in prep for this, he was literally calling out how it's like, people really shouldn't try to do these like stupid, silly gotchas on Destiny because it just doesn't work, Like he's just so ready for it all the time. This is really bad strategy. Never really plays out, and then he does the exact same shit.
position on the
Oh,
existence of God exists or
so
not.
agnostics can't have a neutral position about whether or not God exists or not.
You wouldn't
according
listen to a
Stephen
debate
Bonnell
somebody,
III.
a person who's agnostic. You wouldn't listen to the debate on whether or not God is real or not. They would say, oh, well, I can't have information about the existence of God. You go, okay, well, I guess you wouldn't have this
Oh, well,
debate.
then I guess 50% of the debates on modern day debate are incorrect because people have a neutral position, an agnostic position, like Matt Dillahunty, a guy you talked to, about whether or not God is real. Where Matt Dillahunty says, listen, I'm agnostic on it. He could be real. You just haven't demonstrated to me that he's real. Matt Dillahunty's wrong in all of those debates, right, Destiny?
He would be if that was the prompt of the debate. Yes, if the prompt of the debate was, is God real or not real?
I'm
And you
doing the
come in and you
triangle.
go,
I'm
oh,
doing the
You
triangle.
come in and you go, oh, well, I'm agnostic.
Sorry, I'm
then
back.
you go, okay, why the fuck are you in this debate?
Yo,
You
what's
have a
up?
position on it. Then bring in somebody that feels an atheist who wants to have a strong position of like he's not real, and then a theist who has a strong position he is real.
That makes no sense. You can still have a neutral position. That's absurd. I don't know. How in the world are you the world's best leftist debater if you don't know you can take a neutral position?
This is like saying you want to have a debate between two people between who is God or what is God, and one person is Catholic and the other person is an atheist. This is a nonsense position. Everybody knows this. This is like a debate game.
Oh, everybody knows it,
This
so
is
it's
a debate
true.
game, yeah.
Just like everybody knows it's an insurrection, even though they can't charge
I didn't
anybody
say
with an
everybody knows
insurrection.
it's the historical records. It's an insurrection.
Okay. So what I'll do here is we'll move to the next caller here. Let's Mo, you got it up?
5584, you're up. 5584, you're up.
All right. Welcome to the show. 5584. You got Myron Gaines, Destiny, and Andrew.
Damn, they're just a number, not even a person anymore. Fuck them, right?
Hello? Yeah, go ahead, bro. You're on air.
Rip.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. You're on air.
Oh, hello. Well, never. So I just wanted to ask, do I have to solely debate on this topic alone, or can I just talk about other topics as well?
You want to keep a topic
Yeah, just on
specific,
this
please.
one. Otherwise, we're gonna be calling up for every
Well, later.
This is whole. I mean, he doesn't actually give a definition. He doesn't give a definition on the topic at all. Like, Destiny, what was your definition of insurrection?
An insurrection has four crucial elements. One is that there's an assembly of people for a common purpose. Two is that you are resisting a particular law or you're interfering with the course of a proceeding. Three is that you're doing this by way of force or intimidation. And then four is you're doing it for a public purpose, not like a private one. You're not showing up to like steal something, or you're not showing up because you're like upset about like how a sporting event turned out. It's a public interest in it.
Yeah, caller, he said that at the top of his argument, bro. Caller, he said that at the top of his argument, dude, and he was referencing the 14th Amendment. You might have missed.
No, I'm just saying. No, I agree with him that it wasn't insurrection, but wasn't Andrew's whole point that January 6th was not insurrection? I believe that was his whole point.
Well, Andrew doesn't have a point because he rejects my definition of insurrection, and then he appeals to some universal definition of riot, which I'm not even sure he's given. And then he appeals to, well, this is what everybody would think a riot is, and then he appeals to, well, nobody would agree that hippie people engaged in your definition of insurrection or committing an insurrection. So I guess Andrew's just agnostic on the question of whether or not J6 was an insurrection because he doesn't have a definition of what an insurrection is.
Okay, but I think we answered his question, Destiny, so we can move on to the next guy.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Thank you for calling in. We're going to move on to the next caller again, guys. 515-605-9740. Shout out to Mo and Bills manning the phone lines in the back. If you super chat in the last 4 digits of your number, fnfsuperchat.com.
Why does Andrew look so
whatever you want to do, we're live on all the platforms.
Because he's just a very smug person. He's just very confident.
You're up 4086.
Go ahead, 4086. Shout out to the production team in the back, man, making this fucking flawless. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, Loki, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is there a reason why he's muted?
Yeah, but I got a question for you.
He's probably
I'm
just,
I'm just trying to gauge what you think about this. So, Andrew,
it's not his turn to
if there was
talk.
like a leader or whatever, per se, of the country or whatever, right? Like, and you genuinely thought, like, genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that this leader was like an evil person or whatever, and they're gonna bring reign and terror to your country or whatever. Do you think it's morally justified to take him out before he causes harm?
I don't know. That's really context specific. So I'm possibly. Possibly.
You believe that this leader is like the next Hitler or whatever. You generally thought that. Do you think it's like okay to like kind of take over or like
Again, that claim is it's really listen. That claim is really context specific. I'm going to tell you it's possible, yes, but I'm not sure because it would be under some type of it's like a nebulous concept. The context behind this, so I'm not sure. Maybe it could be. There's a possibility, but that doesn't mean yes or no. I'm not sure. I would need context for this.
Okay, so I mean, let's take some shooting for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. So I mean, like, suppose that guy that did it or whatever legitimately thought that like Trump was going to be the next Hitler. Do you think he was in the like almost a moral right or whatever to try to take him out?
No.
Okay. Why?
Well, so we're not allowed to in this nation assassinate our political opposition. And if you want to know why that would be immoral, it's because that would be murder. But if you want to know why that would be illegal, it's because there's a crime against killing people. That's why it would be illegal. It's crime. You can't kill people.
Okay, that's fine. So let's just take.
Just to be clear, I don't think assassinations are allowed in any country. I think that's usually not okay. But
okay, I just want to add, do you think it's
generally not
to stop
okay?
him from taking
True.
office?
True.
Like just physically force and prevent him from taking office.
I mean, I'm trying to follow this. Maybe it could be, but what do you mean? You mean is it okay to physically stop Trump from taking office?
A bunch of people pulled up and just like forcibly, physically, we're saying like we're not going to allow you to be president because we think you're going to be awful. Do you think it's okay to do that?
Yeah, that would be criminal. Yeah, you can't do that. No.
Okay.
All right.
Wait, what's the point of that, though?
No problem, man. We'll move on to the next caller again.
Dang.
515-605-9740. Super chat.
Guess we'll never know.
Big
brain.
Go ahead, Mo.
3990. You're up.
Go ahead, 3990.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Andrew, I have a question. Can you define me a chair?
Oh, no.
Do you want? Well, it depends on. This is like the sandwich argument, right? So, what is a sandwich? What is a chair? This kind of thing. So when you look at the essence of a thing, right, it is possible that all definitions could fall short to an essence of a thing, but that doesn't mean we can't recognize the essence of a thing. Which is why if we were to take the idea of, a bunch of hippies smoking a fucking blunt in a forest somewhere to resist federal law, and then they started burning the forest down because, a couple of them got too rowdy, calling that an insurrection would fit the spirit of what that means. So while you're looking at both the definition, you're also looking at the application. So when you ask, can I define a chair? Sure. Can I give you a definition of a chair which you can't pick apart? Likely not.
But isn't that what you're doing right now?
No, it's not what I'm doing right now. Because there's still an essence to the thing. There's still something which we're perceiving to the thing, which makes it a chair. The same way it makes it an insurrection. So if it fits a criterion of a riot better, and when we see it as a riot, and everybody sees it as a riot more than they do an insurrection, which is why it was charged that way, it seems like it falls under riot better.
who's charged for a riot?
Well, they're charged under the purview of rioting.
I thought they were charged for like trespassing and stuff.
Yeah, well, trespassing as well. So these
That's
are
not a
these are
riot,
gonna
though.
Well, these are going to be tangential laws.
What is a tangential law? What does that mean?
So if let's say for a second that you're arrested for I don't know, for trespassing, right? Certainly that's not going to fit the definition of an insurrection, right?
Is there a federal crime? Is there a federal crime for rioting?
Well, maybe not, but it would be under purview of what rioting is.
I don't know what that means. Purview of what rioting is when we talk about criminal charges. I don't know what that means.
Okay, well, you agree with me there is rioting.
I don't know if rioting is a public or is a federal crime. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know, okay, I get that. But do you agree with me there is rioting?
I agree that riots exist. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you agree that you and I could likely agree on what a riot is?
I don't know. You don't want to give definitions or anything.
Well, I mean, if I gave you examples, do you think we could agree? Like, if I showed BLM footage of their riots, do you think that you would agree that those were riots?
No, I would ask you very specifically: was anybody charged with a riot? And if they weren't, then I would say that by your earlier definitions of insurrection, these must not have been riots.
You mean
can show me somebody charged with a crime of rioting?
Did I give you of insurrection?
You made it sound like a necessary element of an insurrection having occurred was an individual being charged with a crime of insurrection. You repeated this like 20 times.
That never happened.
Then why did you bring that up over and over and over again?
Because, well, no. So you're conflating two different ideas. So idea one is nobody was charged with an insurrection, which means the powers that be also, when they saw this under their purview, probably didn't think that it fit the criteria for whatever an insurrection is going to be. And so we have to untangle this idea. And then we move on to idea 2, which is your definition may fit something else better than it fits actual insurrection.
Okay. Then you have to show me for a particular BLM riot that somebody was charged with the crime of rioting. If they weren't charged
Oh,
with that, they were
no,
charged with
I
something else. I'd say, oh, people probably didn't think it was a riot. They just felt like a couple
demonstrate
people.
for me how this was actually an insurrection.
I already did. I laid out 4 necessary elements, that things that wouldn't encompass a riot. And
Okay, well, I would say that Chaz and Chop was like an open rebellion or insurrection.
Okay,
Would
and then I would
be a
ask
fair
you,
demonstration?
no, because I would ask you for a single historical example, either judicially, legally, or through any kind of like historical
So-
writing, where,
so
where they
then-
say that you can engage in an insurrection against a state. I'm not aware of that being possible. I don't think insurrections are fine for states. But if you can show me an example, then I say, oh, okay, fine. Then Chaz was an insurrection.
Yeah, okay, but the definition itself, right? If I were to define it that way, right, as like Chaz Chop, and I'm not, right? But I'm saying I can at least look at that and say this is something akin to this, of what I would expect to see under the criteria of X, Y, and Z. That's my point.
Maybe, but you never gave me a definition for insurrection, so I'm not sure.
I mean, it's a good thing that Andrew doesn't think there are no riots during the BLM protest because no one got convicted, so that's a good takeaway, I guess. But thank you, guys. That's it.
All right, so we'll move to the next caller. So, guys,
Whatever
I'll
you
discuss on my team how we'll do it. We'll answer a few more phone calls here, and then what I'll do is we'll stay live on YouTube and all the other platforms. As you guys know, obviously, go check out Destiny, go check out Andrew Wilson on their respective YouTube channels. They're streaming as well. This is, a multi-stream between all the different platforms. I think between all of us guys, we got like 50,000 plus, around 30 to 50,000 watching us. And what I'll do is I'll send a Zoom link to all the Castle Club members, and we'll answer questions exclusively with the Castle Club members. And I appreciate you guys doing that for me. But we'll answer a few more phone calls for guys that are just watching the show regularly. But we'll stay on, but we'll answer questions from Castle Club members only. But we'll do that in a bit after we answer some more here. Who's next on the line? We'll try to get through as many of you guys on.
1143, you are up. 1143, you are up.
And before we bring him on, Destiny, Andrew, do you guys want it where he just asks the question, then we just move on, then take him off the line, you answer the question, then go on so we get more people through? You guys
However you want to do it, bro.
Okay, because I know you normally do this on your thing.
That would be better, is how the callers say what they say and then disconnect them. Otherwise, it's like a back and forth like a last forever.
Okay, we'll do that then. So, caller, go ahead, say your name, where you're from, ask your question, and then we'll, have them respond to your question and move on. Get as many people through.
1143, go ahead.
Go ahead, brother.
All right, I'll remain unnamed, but I just want to point out that the particular government proceedings that BLM as a movement was interfering with were various court cases related to police brutality. So,
okay,
in that case, BLM meet the criteria of an insurrection.
You wouldn't. I wouldn't define like an entirety of a summer of protests or riots or insurrections as like a particular insurrection. Also, I don't think that I'll ignore the federal state distinction now. What?
One entity.
Sure, but like if we look
consistently as BLM through the whole summer.
Do what? Say that again.
And they profess themselves in favor of a certain type of outcome in various court cases relating to police brutality, and demanded forcefully with intimidation that the government bend to what they wanted the outcome to be. How does this not make BLM an insurrection?
It's if you can, you might. My guess is going to be that if we went through every single like BLM riot, that we could probably find some that I would say might meet my definition. If we ignore the state federal distinction, we might find some that meet my definition of insurrection.
And that Trump is a bad president because he led an insurrection. Then Kamala Harris directly provided aid and support to insurrectionists. So wouldn't this also make Kamala Harris an insurrectionist?
No, because I don't think any court has reviewed any of that behavior and found any of it to be an insurrection, number one. And number two, I don't believe that providing bail money is considered part of aiding and abetting.
Whoa. No court has said that this is an insurrection either.
That's not true. The Colorado State Supreme Court did.
Why wasn't anybody charged then, Destiny, with insurrection?
Because it wasn't reviewing, because the court wasn't reviewing it for criminal proceedings. It was the Colorado State Supreme Court. They don't have the authority jurisdiction here.
And what has the Supreme Court said?
The Supreme Court said that they didn't really want to deal with it, so they basically axed it.
Right, so
Can you
operating off of
rewind
your
that?
definition. Under your
Yeah, I
definition,
got you.
he's meeting the criteria for these being insurrections because he's saying
15
that,
seconds.
that this. Why wasn't anybody charged then, Destiny, with it? This is an insurrection either.
That's not true. The Colorado State Supreme Court did.
Why wasn't anybody charged then, Destiny, with insurrection?
Because it wasn't reviewing, because the court wasn't reviewing it for a criminal proceeding. It was the Colorado State Supreme Court. They don't have the authority or jurisdiction to hear.
And what has the Supreme Court said?
The Supreme Court said that they didn't really want to deal with it, so they basically axed it.
Right, so we're just operating off of your definition. Under your definition, he's meeting the criteria for these being insurrections because he's saying that this is now federal, that these are impeding and resisting federal laws at this point. And so if that is
No
the
one
case,
is
you would have to
resisting
concede.
the federal laws. That's just you haven't demonstrated that. The federal execution of what law?
Well, wait a second. Weren't they resisting the federal laws of how police are able to deal with suspects and things like this?
Were they? Was
that what police reform was?
Was a federal? That's not none of that is federal. I don't think you understand.
I mean, that's what the caller's saying, though.
No, it's not like he was saying they were protesting particular court outcomes. That's the judicial system, not the legislative system. So I understand that government is confusing, but these are two totally different things. I don't know if you can have an insurrection protesting court decisions. I'm not aware of that ever being the case. If you can engage in insurrection rebellion against a court decision, I'm not aware of that.
All right. We will go on to the next caller. Who's up next? And we'll take a few more of these guys. Then I'm going to drop a link in Castle Club for Castle Club members to come in and ask these questions.
7579, you are up. 7579, you are up.
Go ahead, brother.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all hear me?
Got you.
Hey, I got a question for Destiny, and I think Andrew can pick up afterwards. So, based off of your 4 points that you gave for what would make an insurrection, technically, none of your points make it necessary for there to be violence. You say in point 3, force or intimidation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be violent. So, based off of that, wouldn't any legal protest where you're advocating for a certain political cause or anything like that in a public space, wouldn't that also, by your definition, count as an insurrection?
No, because I think that the intimidation part is important. The quote that I borrowed from here was from Justice Marshall in 1807. He said, quote, "The most comprehensive definition of levying war against the king or against the United States, which I have seen, requires an assemblage of men ready to act and with an intent to do some treasonable act and armed in warlike manner, or else assembled in such numbers as to supersede the necessity of arms." So I don't think you necessarily have to engage in violence, but I think that having the people there with the purpose of like intimidation and being ready to act with violence, I think is easily enough to satisfy element
No
three.
justice, no justice, no peace.
You would have to point to like you would have to point to a particular thing that like
Yeah,
what is the
I'll point to Chaz Chop. So do you think that if you were to take over a big portion or even a small, tiny portion of a state and consider it to now be neutral from the United States itself, that becomes a federal matter?
I don't know. Was it considered a federal matter?
Well, don't you think that that is resisting federal law? If you make the claim we are seceding this area from the United States, how would that not be federal?
Were they seceding it from the United States, or were they
That's what they
seceding it,
claimed.
or were they seceding it from Washington or whatever?
What?
Were they seceding from the United States of America, or were they seceding
Yes.
from like the state or
They
the
said
city?
that this is a
So they no
neutral
longer
zone, we are
accepted
seceding.
USD. They no longer employed or recognized like
I'm not sure
interstate
that
travel
even if you
or.
were to have a secession, that would mean you couldn't accept USD anymore.
Okay.
Why,
I don't know.
why would that matter?
Because well, it seems like if you're going to secede from a country, it feels like part of that would be like establishing your own government, establishing your own like foreign relations,
Yeah, but you
ambassadors.
can still have USD, and they did. They were trying to do that. They had their own armed militant group who was there armed, definitely intimidating, refused to allow people to come in and out of the zone. They were trying to start their own economy, their own gardens. They had annexed the buildings which were around them. That definitely seems like they're resisting federal law. You're not allowed to secede in the United States. That's a big no-no.
I don't remember this being. Can you tell me what statements or what they made? I don't know the details of this. What did they make or what statements did they make about federal secession?
Talking about Chaz.
Yeah, so Chaz Chop, they considered it.
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
There was multiple statements made that this is no longer part of the United States.
By who?
We are taking this over. Just by the people who were
Yeah,
there.
that's
By
what
the people. So if a
happened.
random person says a particular thing that because I thought you said earlier that we couldn't
Well, I
read
mean, if a
intent into the
random
Donald
person
Trump
takes a baseball
crowd.
bat to someone
You
who
said
calls it
earlier that we
secession.
couldn't read intent into the Donald Trump
How
crowd
does
despite the fact that people were hanging
Destiny
signs and saying
not know
you said
this?
hang Mike Pence and the statements that Trump had made. But I can ascertain.
Yeah, but you say such an inference is fine. So
I
this
didn't.
is
I said
in-
the inference is fine because of the
Well, wait a
collection of
second,
statements
this
that
is the
Donald Trump had
same
made,
as
collecting the people
internal-
there for a given purpose
Well,
that they
that makes no
actually managed to
sense.
succeed in doing. It makes perfect sense. I can lay it out for
Speed
further
talking
definition if you
over
want.
me before I can make the point doesn't help your point. No, it actually doesn't make any sense because your claim is that you can read into the hearts and minds of these people based on what you perceive their actions to be. It's like, okay, fair enough. So if the people who are there are doing the exact same thing, they're saying, okay, this is now a neutral zone. We're seceding from the United States of America. Why can't we read that into their actions as well, Destiny? It makes no sense.
I would absolutely do that if but I don't know of any statement like that. And you can't name a single one, so I don't know what I'm supposed to. I don't know what I can work off of.
If Chaz Chop, if there was such a statement, let's just assume that there was for a second, would you then consider that to be an insurrection?
If they said that we are going to secede from the United States of America and they had like some organized violent way and all the other elements from it, then I'd say, yeah, this would count as an insurrection.
Okay.
Easy, sure, easily, of course.
Gotcha.
But you wouldn't say the same for January 6th, though, because you haven't given a definition of insurrection. But that's the difference between good faith and bad faith, by the way.
No, that's not bad faith for me to do an internal critique in your definition when I can at least take your definition and say, wait a second, all of these apply to a different category.
Yeah, but
and
you're
that was established very well.
You're critiquing my definition without even having a definition of your
I don't
own.
need to have a
You
definition
do.
to critique yours. That's
You can't-
absurd.
no,
that's illogical
but
and
the debate,
absurd.
the debate, stop using illogical. It doesn't mean anything. You're abusing the word, okay? The debate
What
was
is it?
whether
What
or
does it
not
mean?
the debate was over whether or not January 6th
Damn.
was an insurrection. If you only came to that debate to critique my position, and I shouldn't be able to say earlier that you were neutral on it. You're not neutral on it. The answer for you is
He's
you
basically
can't
saying that
complete
if
the
it's
question. I'm defined. You don't have a neutral position. You
successful,
don't have a
then it's an insurrection.
Right, which is so dumb.
Definition of insurrection.
Bro, what
you
the
can't possibly
fuck?
take it. It's like dividing by zero. The answer is not
Right.
neutral or
No,
nothing. You just have an undefined position on it because you don't even have a definition of a term.
Yeah, I know you hate this.
That is
but
true. I don't
that
like
is
arguing with it.
illogical.
Yeah.
That's actually an illogical statement to say that I would need to have a definition of anything to critique your definition of it if I have something else that I can make a comparison to that fits with better, that you agree it fits better in.
Okay, can I
don't know
ask
why
you?
you don't get
just-
that.
Okay, what would your position be on if I were to ask you? Is January 6th?
What the fuck?
What's
You
your
okay?
What's your answer to that? Is January 6th?
Did you just go?
I'm asking
Why?
you, was January 6th a? What's your answer to
What-
that? Would you say you're neutral on that?
Why, that would be incoherent. I wouldn't understand
Thank
what you're
you.
saying.
Thank you. I agree. Yes.
Oh.
Insurrection. That
Wow.
term is incoherent to you because you have no definition for the word. So I'm uttering nothing to you. When I say insurrection, you have no way to compute the question. So you can't say that you're neutral on it. The same way you can't say you're neutral on it being. You can't say
Well,
you're
I don't
neutral
know-
on it being
I don't know how
insurrection
fucking
because you have no
Oh,
definition
I
for
don't know how
insurrection.
language works then. When you say, okay,
Apparently
this is
not.
this is a Snicker bar, and I don't know what a Snicker bar is, but I can make comparisons to other things so that I can at least understand where you're coming from with what a Snicker bar is. Okay, Destiny.
That's correct. That is correct. What if I
That's
showed you a
absurd.
bar and you're like, that's not a Snicker bar. That looks like a chocolate wafery thing with caramel on it. And I
Yeah,
go,
if
yeah,
it
that's
fits
a Snicker
right-
bar.
yeah,
Yes,
that's
that's
great.
you
Isn't
go,
that great how that
actually,
works?
this
If
fits
things
way
fit other
better with
criteria better?
the Milky Way.
Damn.
It's actually way more than the- no, it's not quite a Milky Way. It's a Snicker bar. You're like, well, I don't even have.
Well, then
definition
it would
for
fit that criteria of the Snickers bar, the ontology of a
You
Snickers
wouldn't know.
bar,
You
better
don't
than
have
the
an
ontology of a
Snickers
Milky
bar.
Way.
You don't have that ontology is non-existent for you because.
Oh, Rick, that guy typed that like an hour ago or
You
some
wouldn't- you
shit.
don't need to have a definition
need to
for
have a
you to
definition
understand
of
the
a thing.
ontology of the
Yeah.
concept. What are you
I
talking
think it's a
about?
Butterfinger.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's just been like a bunch of those guys that like come in and go, "Ain't you Wilson W actually?" And then they just leave.
You can't compute it. It's gibberish to you, like when I utter gibberish.
No, this is gibberish to me.
Well,
This
you
is-
usually get a
why- There's
notification
absolutely
that
no
I
reason
mentioned them.
why, if you've never, even if you were to grant, I'd never even heard of
Leaves
insurrection
kick it,
before,
yeah.
that I couldn't understand if you came up with a term
Right.
for insurrection. I said,
Dude,
well,
I had a
insurrection is better.
Brody who was
Why
like
it
trying
is
to throw
different?
insults at me. I didn't even even realize he was a Brody until like an hour after I kicked him from my chat. I was like, wait a minute.
I'll take a few more of these. Then we're gonna.
This guy was named Pink Amina Pie, and he's got like Pinkie Pie or some shit. I think, right? That's what the pink one's called.
Maybe we'll do that, but
Yeah, Pinkie Pie.
I don't. Dude, one of my best friends in high school used to be like a mega brony, dude. He used to try to push that shit on me. I know like Pink, and I know the rainbow one. That's like.
Dude, I watched that shit because I was so fucking bored. That shit was on at like 12 in the morning during the summer, and I'm just like, this thing called, like, there was a YouTube, there's a fucking channel on cable TV called The Hub. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
That's what that was called, and they would constantly fucking show these fucking Ben 10, and then at the end at like 12 in the fucking morning, it was My Little Pony, and I'm like, the fuck? Why?
Because base, dude. Base Ben 10, the MLB, I
It's
guess.
so-
Let's go. Base 10.
It's so wild.
Base
Who's
10.
watching this?
Base 10 fans, obviously. Duh.
True.
Dude, there's nothing better when you get back from like the bar than just like be drunk and high as shit and watching like, cartoons.
There's something way better. It's called being sober and going to church and praying.
True. Base.
No, we're gonna leave that to Andrew Wilson.
Andrew, why do you think Trump?
Nah, Andrew
Yes.
Wilson. Actually, Andrew Wilson.
Riot?
That.
Like, there were 3
I don't know what the fuck he's
After
on.
the shit kicked out of them, he
A
didn't call
nicotine
anybody,
coffee.
except for, well,
Two
lawyers
things
and stuff.
Catholics
Like, Nancy
vehemently
Pelosi
are
to the
usually
defense that she
against,
was,
but
queen
it's
of all
cool.
capital security.
He
Why didn't
asked.
Trump
Hey.
call Nancy
It's
Pelosi?
not within. This is not within the purview of the. This is not within the purview of the debate. I don't care about your diatribe. I don't care about your emotional state. This is not within the purview of the debate.
All right, next up, 8438. You are up. 8438. You are up.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Smoking indoors, bruh.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
it's
I
so
have a quick
grody,
question for
but
Destiny.
Yeah, what the
Like, at
fuck?
end of the debate,
He automatically lost the
Peter's
debate.
Andrew's example of the
Yeah.
rebellion and insurrection, if that's the case, then wouldn't you also have to say that the
What the fuck is this guy's?
inauguration of Trump in 2017,
Well, they're calling
the
in. I can't really blame them for being on cell phones.
and the
Dude, the guy sounds like he's in a washing.
We're just listening, caller.
Yeah, just listen to you, bro. Go ahead.
wouldn't you have to say that those 2 events, and then of course you have the White House bombing after the George Floyd death with Trump and everything, wouldn't you have to say that those would fall within the same definition as well?
I would have to go through the facts of each of these, but if you can show me that there was an assembly of people that united for a common purpose, that they were there to contravene some type of federal law, that the
Yeah.
justice's goal was to make use of force or intimidation, and that they were there for something that was like in the public interest, then whatever you're going to give me here, I'm going to say, well, yeah, that's my definition of insurrection, then I would say these were probably insurrections, sure.
That's what happened.
Also, wait, hold on. Real quick. Not only would I say that, you should say that too. Let's say, for instance, let's say that when Roe v. Wade changed or whatever, let's say the federal government was going to do a particular
Okay.
thing, they were gathering to, let's just say they were doing a ban on it. Let's say that you had, let's say that Kamala Harris was marching with these people, chanting and cheering them on, and saying like, we're going to stop the government from banning abortion, okay? They're going to sign this law today, we're not going to let them do it, we're going to make our voice here, we're going to go and fight like hell, we're going to do what we need to do to make them not pass this law. They show up when it's going to be signed, she's outside cheering them on as they break into the Capitol building, they go in. When we talk about whether an insurrection is occurring or not, right, and we talk about the 14th Amendment, you shouldn't want her to be president again. You should say, hey, you took an oath to the Constitution, and now you're engaging in insurrectionist behavior. You're violating your oath to the Constitution. I don't want you running for office again. We should all think that. I would think that. All of us should have that feeling that if somebody has engaged in or aided in helping people engage in insurrection, then you shouldn't want this person who was in office to run for office again, I would say.
All right, we'll move on to the next caller. And guys, just so you know, we're going to drop the Council Club link, the Zoom call link in Council Club right now. So get in there and then raise your hand in the Zoom call, and we'll answer 1 or 2 more calls, and we'll go over to the Council Club guys only. But we're going to drop the link right now. Council Club guys, go ahead and join Council Club TV. You know how to support, free speech on our side.
Okay.
And but we'll take a few more callers while we get that set up on our Zoom side. Who's up next, man?
4849.
Okay, 4849.
4849.
You're on there with Destiny Myron and Andrew. What is your question, brother?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome to the show.
All right, cool. So this whole debate was over a definition of was this event the thing of insurrection? So if you were to pick something like, we'll say there's a shape, and we were going to debate whether the shape was a square or not. Andrew's argument seems to be that, oh, well, that maybe fits the definition of a rhombus or a parallelogram better, and that basically those definitions are mutually exclusive. I think that a lot of people would agree that the January 6th event does fall under the definition of a riot, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it also wasn't an insurrection. So if you say, oh, hey, this shape, well, it has 4 sides, and each of the 4 sides is parallel, and say, well, that's rhombus or that's parallelogram, that's not actually a square, then, like, okay, but you haven't said what a square is, and Destiny has put forth not just a personal definition, but the legal definition that's agreed onto by lots of courts, and that's how we do laws.
Ooh.
You know, we use
Good point, caller.
to figure out whether this is a
Good point,
like,
caller.
under the courts, like the federal definition of what everybody agrees that is. And so the saying, oh, well, I don't have to define what a square is, if it's my definition of a rhombus,
What
fine.
what did I miss? I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time focusing when it comes to these callers.
Because it seems like Andrew.
So basically,
Like,
he's
like understanding
saying,
what they're saying.
yeah, he's saying that like he's basically breaking down the argument and the shapes, and he's saying that like Andrew Wilson's whole argument is that it wasn't an insurrection, it was a riot, and he's basically trying to assert that those are mutually exclusive things. Destiny is saying that they aren't mutually exclusive, and it can be a riot and an insurrection. So he's like using the argument of like you're trying to say that like a square isn't a rhombus or some shit like that, but you know it's like how like a rhombus is a type of square or some shit, because it's like
Yeah.
technically like a four-sided shape, and so you know, it's like that's the argument that the color is making, is that like they aren't mutually exclusive, and Andrew Wilson trying to make them mutually exclusive really serves no functional purpose, since like regardless of him saying they're mutually exclusive, they aren't. Like outright.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I mean, as cringe as it sounds, but like you can even equate it to like sex or something. Like the act of sex is different, is not the same or mutually exclusive to kissing, but it in the act of sex you can also have kissing. In the same way how an insurrection can also involve a riot.
Bro really needed to have the fuck analogy, and I respect it. Not gonna lie.
I mean, that's that was like the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh, what are it's like just because there are a lot of things where there's elements that can encase like a situation, I guess.
Well, there are a lot of ways an insurrection can happen. A riot is one of them, but like you could have an insurrection where there is no, or where there is no military, even anything.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know. I think this Andrew Wilson guy is an actual fucking brain dead retard.
I honestly, this is a hot take. I don't think January 6th was the insurrection. I think the voters, the false electors, was the insurrection.
Yeah.
Or the attempted.
That was
like I don't know why everyone's so fucking
it's a multi-part
livid
thing.
on that.
Well, okay, so it's a twofold thing. So most people like Destiny wouldn't disagree with you there. In fact, that's probably like Destiny's main argument, right?
Sure.
It's just like Andrew Wilson went immediately to the, well, what about the people who weren't rioting and all that other shit? You know, so that's kind of like why this argument went down this road, right?
Yeah.
But Destiny clearly like laid out, well, because it's like funny, because like Andrew Wilson and like me, like Andrew Wilson's argument is stupid, and my characterization of it is childish and funny, so it makes sense why Destiny laugh. So and it's like that's kind of like why it went that route. But like if I were to like rewind the tape back, like Destiny has laid out multiple times that, like Trump's plan to like initiate like the false electors was like a crucial part of like what made it an insurrection. That was like one of the 4 parts of like what he defined as an insurrection as.
Sure.
January 6th wasn't like its own thing. It was like almost like a big scheme. So like the January 6th and the way it played out was just part of the domino effect that Trump.
The mental gymnastics and like the sweeping that they have to do for this guy is actually insane.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. Yeah,
it just comes down to conservatives don't want to be wrong. That's all it is. It is. True. We have to own the libtards' epic time. Okay.
Well, I don't think anyone wants to be wrong. Really, nobody just wants to own anything.
Yeah, but we're getting to the point now where people are literally denying reality.
Well, yeah, it's been like that for a while, and it's kind of fucked.
Not to this level.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten a little bit more extreme nowadays. I feel
like,
when you're talking about like possible insurrections and possible like what was it called? Like faking electorates and shit like that, and like getting the Supreme Court involved, it goes a little bit beyond like just playing around. You know, like it's a little more damaging.
Right.
You cut out, caller.
Agrees, but he doesn't like
Bro, hang on. You cut out. Like me and Destiny both missed like maybe 15 seconds there.
Oh, sorry. Do you know where it was that it stopped?
I want to point something out. Really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, see how all the people, you can see them at the top?
Yeah.
Now listen to what Byron says after.
Does not necessarily mean that it's also not an insurrection, and the fact that they were trying to prevent some function of the government from preventing some law from being followed or carried out by the U.S. government, that's the defining factor. That's the thing that makes it an insurrection.
Oh man,
And
what the hell? They got
we
these
can
people in the
consider it
Discord? Oh, it feels bad.
Yeah.
Dude, I should have joined this.
Okay.
I knew I should
Anything
have joined. I really wanted to join and ambush Andrew.
Would you say
I
That
really
would've
wanted.
been funny.
I really wanted to, but it wouldn't have been really the players, and they would have
Aw.
insta-kicked me.
this is not an insurrection? Other than
But
saying,
yeah, I
No, I
really
don't
wanted to
think
be like,
so.
yo, Andrew, why do you keep running from me?
I know you don't understand the argument. But
Ooh.
You said
it's
DM you
not-
on
it's
Twitter,
not-
and
so I don't
he
think
said
you
something
understand.
up, and
I don't
then I
think you
DM'd you on
understand
Twitter, and then
Dude,
you
nah,
said something
come
up.
on.
have
You
to tell
should
you
do
why
it
the claim
100%.
Why
I
don't-
don't.
why
I don't. I don't think it
If you're just gonna
matters.
cut me off and not let me answer, then we're not gonna have a
I
productive
guess.
conversation.
Caller, let me
See?
explain.
Bruh.
Who's the burden of proof on here?
I'm just upset. Just
No,
want
it's not. Who's the burden of proof on?
Want some follow through from these fucking pussies, man.
well,
Fuck.
the burden of proof to say that it's not an insurrection is on the person who's claiming.
No, it's not my burden to say it's not.
Damn.
It's not my burden to say that it is.
You have no
The
position
burden,
on
the
whether
burden of
it's
proof is on the person who makes the claim, not for me to negate said claim, but for them to prove it. That's the distinction. Do you understand that?
You say you have no claim that it's not an
You're not. Wait, no. Answer my question. Do I need to negate a claim for you to be able to prove it? Can't you prove a claim?
Well, if you're
Answer my question, dude.
it categorically does
Answer
not
my
fit the
question,
I know, you're not answering
dude.
the question, right?
term
Okay.
insurrection.
All right. Whatever you say, bro.
I know you don't want to answer. It's fine. So.
All right. We'll go to next caller. And just
Yeah,
you
just
guys.
as a real quick thing, so like the prompt was January 6th an insurrection. Debating my definition of insurrection doesn't satisfy the prompt. It only satisfies attacking my position. But even if you did manage to completely defeat my position, not by actually showing, because you're not even really defeating my position, you're just making my position incoherent. But by doing so, you're also admitting that your position is incoherent as well, right? If you can prove that I don't have a good definition for
Do you
insurrection,
remember the-
if you can prove
yeah.
that I don't have a good definition for insurrection, then you can prove that my position saying it is an insurrection is incoherent. I would have to use another word.
So
you
do
haven't
you-
even given a position at all. So
yeah,
at
so
best,
do
you've
you-
only put us both at neutral, which is
Do you
kind of meaningless.
remember? Do you remember in the beginning of the debate where I gave you the criteria for the concessions that I would make if you're willing to concede on X, Y, Z point?
Yeah, but we're not here to just argue. Does Destiny have a
But if I,
satisfactory definition of
yeah, but if I
insurrection,
can
which is what the
negate
debate
and we
has become?
both, but if I have no negation, but we end up on neutral because your definition is incoherent, then do you remember when I said in my opening statement that the goal of that was to show that you no longer have the moral high ground because everything's a fucking insurrection at that point, and that means you're as much of an insurrectionist as the people you're accusing of being
Well,
insurrectionists.
To
That's
be
the
clear,
point.
that wouldn't make everything an insurrection. That would just make all riots an insurrection.
Yeah, I was being hyperbolic.
Okay, well, that's kind of hard when you're also being illogical. But
No,
the
I wasn't
idea
being
is that
illogical.
yeah, all you're doing is reducing us both to the same position. It
Hey,
seems odd at the end of the day, but okay.
Why? Depends on what the goal of the debate is. In this
The
particular
goal was to
case,
show that both
I
of us are
believe-
neutral on whether
yeah,
January 6th
no,
was an insurrection.
no,
You know that you don't
no,
actually
if
believe
you're
that. You believe it
neutral-
wasn't,
If you're
right?
neutral, if you're neutral on whether or not January 6th is an insurrection, your claim is voided.
But then so would yours be, unless your claim is.
What
we don't
claim
have-
am I making? My
Well,
claim is
if
only
you're,
that.
if you're
My
a
claim is
challenger,
only
if
that
you're a
you can't
challenger,
demonstrate it was,
if I
that's
say
it.
if I say that January 6th is an insurrection, you want to challenge that position. Generally, the challenge would be that January 6th wasn't an insurrection.
Yeah,
not that
language,
January
but it's
6th, not that
generally-
January 6th doesn't comport with Destiny's definition of insurrection, or I think Destiny's definition of insurrection is incoherent. That's a different kind of debate.
Well, no, I don't think it's a different kind of debate. I'm saying loaded things like, well, generally this means doesn't mean anything. So ultimately, if I
Well,
can
generally
reduce,
what thing
if
means
I can
what?
reduce this, if I can reduce this to a neutral position, then your claim that this was an insurrection is false.
Okay, but then your claim that it wasn't an insurrection is also false.
I never made such a claim.
What is your claim? Your claim is just that you're neutral. You have no position on it.
My claim was that I could be swayed either way. That
Well,
you
but that's
could
not what the
convince
debate. The
me-
debate wasn't here
could
to
convince
sway you.
me.
Well, no, you can't be convinced because you can't even accept the definition of insurrection. So that's just not true.
Well, I can be convinced, and you just saying you can't be convinced doesn't mean anything again.
So are you unconvinced by historical courts that have convicted people or used these definitions of insurrection in order to write legislation or in order to write constitutional amendments? What do you think the founding fathers meant? Not founding fathers, I guess. What do you think the framers of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment meant when they said insurrection? What do you think?
I think that they're tying it to rebellion.
Why would
Because
they?
every
But they very
because
clearly.
every time I saw it, it seemed to coexist with
Oh, hi,
rebellion. Every single time
hon.
I see this, it seems like it's a lead.
We
towards
might actually
rebellion.
be wrapping up here kind of soon.
If you agree that it,
maybe.
if you agree
How are you
that
doing?
it meant rebellion, why would there be so many people that draw distinctions between insurrection and rebellion?
Yeah, until it comes to charging time. When it comes to charging time, it seems that they can't draw.
Hold
towards
on, why do you
rebellion.
keep just because you're talking about charges, criminal court and calling the
Well,
thing a
if
thing
you're
are
going to
two
appeal
different
to
things.
if you're going to appeal to authorities here based around legal definitions, it's perfectly acceptable for me to appeal to the legal authorities, which are refusing to charge under this criteria, Destiny. They're refusing to charge under this criteria for insurrection, and it seems every definition that I can find for this is somehow vaguely associated with rebellion.
Yeah, it's associated with it because I believe every rebellion started with an insurrection, but that doesn't mean that every rebellion is an insurrection. That's why they use
Perhaps.
rebellion or insurrection, for
Yeah,
instance, in
perhaps
Section
not.
2 of the
So-
Second Confiscation Act. You can't give any historical things, though.
So I think if
right?
there was-
so,
if
for
there
instance, they
was
say in any
open-
rebellion or insurrection, inciting and setting foot on, assisting or engaging in any rebellion or insurrection, which is set under Section 2 of the Second Confiscation Act, they're not. They're two different things. That's why they use.
But the reason that I think that the Supreme Court especially didn't want to hear this is because they would end up like you giving a definition which was so broad that it would encompass all sorts of things that we don't really perceive of as being insurrections, because we really associate insurrection and rebellion with the same kind of idea, which is exactly why I don't don't believe for a second, while you're over there saying you're good faith, that you believe for a second that if a bunch of dope-smoking hippies to, kind of resist federal law, went and smoked a bunch of joints on federal
I'm
property,
calling
and a
it
couple of them got
one-on-one.
rowdy, you would believe that that was an insurrection. I don't believe you. I simply
If a
don't
bunch of
believe
people smoking weed went and started setting fire to forests in the United States of America on federal property because they were trying to get them to
you. No, a
overturn...
couple of them did. They started a small fire, let's say, right? Not a huge blazing forest fire. They started a small fire. There was a little bit of rioting there, right? Somebody got beat up. A couple of them had maybe some melee weapons. I don't think we would associate that with rebellion. So I don't think we would associate that with insurrection.
I can't,
We
though.
associate with
Pause.
I'm sorry, because I don't know the
This
logical
piece
structure
of
of like,
shit.
When you say people probably wouldn't
Wait.
do that, what kind of an argument are we making?
This is so retarded. It's still not even analogous.
Yeah.
Because people died on January 6th as a result of the fucking riot, dude.
Yeah,
like,
man.
it's not even. He's equating like a small time accident. Not a small time accident. He's equating an accident. Oh, they got a little rowdy and lit a forest on fire. Like, people got shot and killed
Yeah, you did.
on
yeah.
January 6th.
Yeah.
It's what are you fucking on about, you stupid fuck?
huge blazing forest fire. Just started a small fire. There was a little bit of rioting there, right? Somebody got beat up. A couple of them had maybe some melee
he's
weapons.
just a
I don't think we would
rotation. He's
associate that
purposely
with rebellion.
vandalizing
And
it.
so I don't think we would associate
So
that
we
with
then
insurrection.
join-
I think we associate it with rebellion.
I'm sorry, because I don't know
Like
the
the people in his audience
When you
can,
say
like, be
people
not
probably wouldn't do
brain-broken
that,
by
what kind of
reality,
argument are we
you
making
know?
there? When you say that, like, people probably wouldn't think that's an insurrection, what kind of logical appeal are we making to challenge my definition? The people probably wouldn't think appeal?
Yeah, so,
what is that? What,
so,
what,
so,
yeah, what structure are we
So
calling
hang
it?
on. So again, we're going to untangle two different ideas. So I already
I
gave you
hate
the
Andrew
critique of
Wilson
your
so
definition.
much.
When you ask me what you, Andrew, what do you associate with this thing, which is your direct question, what types of things do you associate with this? I tell you. Then I say, if that's the type of thing that I associate with it, I also think most people associate that type of thing with it as well. So these are two
I
different
don't care
ideas.
what most people. I'm looking at the legal and historical understanding of it, right? So in the Amy Ward Price case, the Supreme Court said insurrection against the government may or may not culminate in an organized rebellion, but a civil war always begins by insurrection against the lawful authority of the government. A rebellion
Civil
was
War
the
did not begin.
The Civil War didn't begin with an
No,
insurrection.
a civil war did not begin because of J6.
It says insurrection against the government may or may not culminate in an organized rebellion.
That's correct. So
there was an
still-
insurrection against the government. It didn't culminate in a rebellion, but those are
Yes,
two different
that's-
things.
yes,
and I can
this
show
is-
you Supreme Court cases where they said
Sure.
different things. So your idea here, well, they probably thought they were the
but
same,
your
doesn't really
definition,
seem.
unfortunately, it's too nebulous here for us to associate this specifically with only the idea of insurrection when there's other ideas that fit it better.
Is there a single historical scholar, Supreme Court case, writer or framer or lawmaker ever that you can cite to that says that there is a nebulous, there's no understanding what insurrection is?
Well, actually, yes. So the Supreme Court justices themselves have stated this. I do have a quote from one of the Supreme Court justices who said, "This is not an easy thing to tackle because the idea of it is contested and somewhat nebulous." I believe, in fact, that was Justice. Now I'm paraphrasing, but I believe that was Justice Roberts who said that.
And what was the full quote here?
I would have to pull the quote up, so I'm paraphrasing, right? But it was something akin to
Oh, no.
this idea. Is actually
Okay, no.
Whoa, hold on there,
The Supreme
buddy.
Court
I
really
see
did not
massive
wanna
L
win
inbound.
because they were
Oh.
making a definition like your own.
Big
So,
L inbound.
Are you disputing this? Let's start with this. Are you disputing that you think the Supreme Court didn't weigh in on this because they were afraid that they could make a definition of this, which was so
Skill
broad
issue.
that things would fall into the category
It's
of
coming.
insurrection that they really didn't want to fall into that category?
I don't think the Supreme Court made a strong statement about insurrection.
By micro.
Yeah, what do you think? Though? I'm asking you what you actually think.
They didn't really rule on the insurrection part.
I know they didn't rule on it, but why do you think they really didn't want to hear it? Why do you think it is that this is kind of such a hard concept for people to kind of get their minds around? It's because it is somewhat nebulous. It is associated with rebellion. And yes, there's precedents for these things, but the precedents don't directly apply to what J6 was.
It doesn't
And other
matter. The
things-
issue
and
wasn't
other-
the
hang on,
issue-
hang on, man. Let me
Yeah.
finish my point,
Okay.
and then you can respond.
Mhm.
Other things do seem to associate with it better. That's the point. Your definition is far too broad. You knew it would be far too broad. The Supreme Court also knows this. That's why the Supreme Court themselves, I think, really didn't want to go in and rule on it because it would retroactively make a bunch of Democrats and Republicans insurrectionists based on other things that they have done.
That's great, and that's a bunch of reading into that Supreme Court decision that they had never said. But I'm pretty sure that the rationale that they gave in the issue was that different minds could disagree on whether or not an insurrection had taken place, and the idea that different states would make different decisions about it seemed to be very difficult for them. So in Barrett's,
So it's nebulous. It's a little bit nebulous. They can't really agree because it's kind of a nebulous concept, right?
Do you think that murder is a nebulous concept?
I think that justification for murder can be very nebulous.
Do you
if
think
it
that
comes to-
murder is a
Stop,
nebulous
stop, bro,
concept?
stop.
Why are you
Let me ask the
rambling?
question.
No, I asked you a question. Do you think murder
No,
is a nebulous
I'm
concept?
answering the question.
Do you think murder is a nebulous concept?
I'm trying to answer the question whenever you're ready. Let me answer.
Oh, no, dude.
Okay, well, I'm not going to ramble. I'm going to give you an actual direct answer. Certain aspects of murder, when it comes to justification, can be very nebulous. Yes, like right to retreat laws can be very nebulous. Yes, that can constitute murder. It can be very nebulous. We have some concept of it, but it's not.
Well,
it's
that
not
wouldn't be
easily
murder.
easily
Wait.
graspable. Yes. it can be
Wait,
very
murder is a
nebulous.
very specific. I feel like he's either dumb or he's doing this very much on purpose because like Destiny chose murder specifically because murder is something that's done specifically with intent. Right to retreat or like self-defense isn't considered murder, obviously.
And yet we still have criminal convictions for murder.
That's true. We do still have criminal convictions for murder, which does not demonstrate your point at all.
It absolutely does. If a court
How?
is capable of determining whether or not a person can have a severe
That's
restriction
right.
to
And
their
what
life
did
or
they
liberty,
determine?
The
They
col-
determined that none of them committed insurrection. That's what they determined.
That's not what they determined. What they
Yes,
determined
it is
was
what they determined.
Really? Where in the Supreme
Yeah,
Court?
what did they
opinion
charge
does it
him?
say that?
Hang on, what did they charge him with? They
No
charged
one
him
is
with
being charged.
insurrection?
The Supreme Court is not a first review
I'm
court.
talking
of
about the
fact.
Supreme Court.
I don't know what
I'm
you're talking
saying-
about then.
what I'm
No one
saying
is.
to you-
I'm sorry. Where in the 14th Amendment does it say the
Wait,
crime of
you're-
insurrection?
All you're doing is speed talking. What I'm saying to you is when you ask me, are certain aspects of
Oh
murder
my
nebulous?
God.
Yes, of course, certain aspects of murder are nebulous. Can people still be charged on those
Right
aspects?
now they're
Yes, they need to
both
be
speed
prosecuted. Yes,
talking.
but you say, well, then there, you can prove it. Great, I agree. You can prove it. And when these people were prosecuted, they were not prosecuted for insurrection. So clearly, they didn't think it was insurrection. Or at least it seems like they didn't think it was insurrection because they certainly didn't charge anybody with that.
Gotcha. Just as a quick spiel or whatever, because Andrew has no concept of how law or courts or anything works in the United States. The 14th Amendment has absolutely nothing to do with somebody being charged with a criminal conviction of insurrection. Criminal conviction of insurrection has nothing to do with any of this. And the question before the court in Trump v. Anderson wasn't whether or not
Light
somebody
up
had
another
engaged in a crime of
cope
insurrection.
stove.
And the
Let's
big issue that they cited
go.
to for why they rejected that case was because Section 5 of the 14th Amendment said that Congress can pass
That
laws in order to
PC has gotta
implement
be
something,
so
and the
gross on the
could be implemented
inside.
via the Section 5 power of the Congress.
Oh,
and that's why
yeah,
it's not
his?
illegal.
Yeah,
It's not a
definitely.
switch. It's
100%.
not an understanding of
Here's
how
why
it
it's
works.
debate-
But all I was saying was that you saying, well, it's nebulous, therefore a court can't decide that question. Courts deal with nebulous things literally all of the time.
That wasn't
The
my
idea
claim
that a
either.
court can't deal with something that's nebulous like insurrection, and
Wasn't my
courts deal
claim.
with things like murder or affirmative defenses like self-defense or anything else, is a ridiculous claim, and it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what courts are even supposed to do.
Yeah,
what
except
courts are
that wasn't my
capable of doing.
claim. So here's the great kind of Destiny bait and switch, right? He just did a typical bait and switch. What he did was he said this. He
What
said,
the
Andrew,
hell?
do you think that a court can do A, B, and C,
Oh,
or
hell
they can
nah.
in some way rule or choose
Amazing
even with a
bait and
nebulous concept?
switch.
My answer was
Amazing.
yes. I think that even with a nebulous concept, they can. In this case, right? Even if we were to grant Destiny's argument that they can do this under nebulous concepts, they still didn't charge these people with insurrection, even if that's a nebulous concept. What he did instead was he did a bait and switch and said, "Oh, but he doesn't understand the law." Blah
Why
blah
do
blah
you
blah.
keep
But this
using
was a
the same
lead-in.
argument?
This was a
Switch.
lead-in
It has
question.
nothing to do
Bait
with
and
insurrection.
And so,
Insurrection
hang on,
goes
Dave,
back
let me finish my point. I just let you go through your whole diatribe.
Oh my
So I read
God.
Mr. Gallup's
You're
direct
repeating
response.
debunked
You don't even know what a gish
arguments.
gallop is.
I do,
You
and
don't
you lay a whole bunch of
So
claims
anyway,
on
I'm
over
not
and over and over
laying
again.
any
The
claims. I'm
idea that the
refuting the
opponent
claims you
can't
made.
actually refute them because he keeps stacking the same
Bro,
guys over and over again.
you made the claim. I'm refuting.
No,
it.
you.
This was
You're
basic.
repeating
This was a
the same
this was a
Literally.
basic lead-in, and I proved the basic lead-in wrong. And so that's when he went off on the diatribe about, well, what the the court, blah blah blah. What about the courts? What about the
Yeah, I'm
precedents?
gonna
Well, it had
wrap
nothing to do
this
with the
up
actual
before it
lead-in
gets too
question, which is what I
fucking
was responding to.
late.
That's a classic bait and switch.
You said that the Supreme Court didn't rule on the definition because it was too nebulous. That's not
Because
true.
you
That's not why
asked
they
me,
rejected it.
why do you think the Supreme Court X? And so I just gave you my opinion. I think possibly it's because this is a nebulous concept. They didn't want to weigh in. It seems that Roberts agreed. When you read initially what Roberts said, it seems like that's what he's saying there, is that there's going to be a lot of disagreement here because we can't quite agree on this. That sounds nebulous to me.
All right, how about this? We'll take one more caller, and then we'll go to the Council Club guys. Let's get the guy on the line.
Yes.
Go ahead.
0789.
0789, go ahead, hit the line. And then after him, I actually do have a potential topic of discussion for the panel. But let's get this caller on first. Go ahead.
0789, you are up. 0789, you are up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do like 5 more minutes of this, and then I think I'm gonna wrap it.
Great.
Alrighty.
And then we're
big
just
fan
gonna
of
we're gonna
Blue
do
Cinema. I have
movies
a
because
question
Joe
for,
had a movie
Mr.
she wanted to
Borelli.
watch.
If I knew what sexual assault was, but I had no fucking clue what rape was, could you ever prove to me that a rape took place? Because I
No,
think
because whatever definition you give, whatever definition I give for rape, you're just gonna say it was sexual assault. Yeah. No, true. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like all these call-ins are just gonna be like looping, or gonna be like loopers, like maybe late
No, I think
viewers.
this was sexual assault. You would never give a definition of rape, and then you would just use that to try to win the argument. Yeah.
And then
All the votes are counted against Donald Trump. He was upset about that.
The count, what, like a day?
Fact you brought up, I think, was incorrect. So
I'll
you
probably
said
go
you
over
know-
this stuff like tomorrow because there's some other Destiny content that I want to react to. Like this video here. We're gonna definitely do this tomorrow. Then there's some other Chris Tyson stuff that we're gonna get done. But that was pretty much the stream. Just a little quick 2.5 hour. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Andrew Wilson fans, stay mad and hating. Cope, Seeth.